don't need a quirk to judge this world.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Lost His Quirk Instead of Mirio and got Death Note movie. Before we start, please go support Jeff3302J for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. What if instead of Mirio losing his quirk it had been Midoriya? His dream of being a hero was over, everything he fought for was gone, he was back to being just a quirkless person, but he received a gift from heaven in the form of a notebook. Chapter 1. After Eri's rescue, an accident occurred. The hero Lemillion, better known as Mirio Tagada, didn't lose his quirk, but Deku, known as Izuku Midoriya, did. He sacrificed his quirk to protect his friend. Izuku told Almight everything that had happened, and Almight felt guilty for not being able to help. Everyone at UA learned that the freckled boy had lost his quirk. Izuku was transferred to a regular school. The green-haired boy was sad because everything he had worked for was over. His dream of becoming a hero was now just a dream again. The green-haired boy got ready to go to his new school. Luckily, no one bothered him there. When he arrived, he sat by a window, watching in the distance as some heroes answered the call of danger. In his classroom was a somewhat reserved boy, but he was the best student at the school. His name was Light Yagami. Villains had created more chaos in the city, and not only that, but also criminals and mafiosos. It was all like a consequence of the villains' actions. Dominoes, Izuku lost his quirk, and the villains wouldn't miss this opportunity. Classes proceeded normally, with Izuku and Light standing out the most. Everyone was surprised that the new student was just as intelligent as Light, while Light didn't pay much attention to it. During the last period of class, the freckled boy saw a black notebook fall. This caught his attention, so when class ended he quickly went to the spot. As he approached, he saw that the notebook said, Death Note. Izuku. Death Note, this means notebook of death, could it belong to someone? Looking around. Before he could open it, his phone started ringing. He answered it. It was his friends letting him know they were at their agreed-upon meeting place. The green-haired boy put his notebook away and quickly went to meet them. When he arrived, he saw his friends greeting him, and they returned the greeting. They went to hang out, and they told him that everyone at UA missed him, though they also talked about the training Aizawa made them do. This last bit made the green-haired boy sad. His friends, noticing this, quickly changed the subject. As night fell, they said their goodbyes, and everyone went their separate ways except for the green-haired boy, since his friends were heading back to their dorms at UA. When the freckled boy got home, he greeted his mother, who greeted him back. He went up to his room to change his clothes. When he took out his notebooks, he saw the one he had in his school notebook and opened it, finding a section of instructions. The freckled boy began to read. Izuku. The names of the people written in this notebook will die. This notebook won't work unless the writer has the person's face in mind while writing their name. Therefore, people who share the same name won't be affected. If the cause of death is written within the next 40 seconds, the person's name will die. If the cause of death isn't specified, the person will die of a heart attack. After writing the cause of death, the details of the death must be written within the next 6 minutes and 40 seconds. When he finished reading, he was startled, but then shook his head, thinking that simply writing people's names in a notebook could cause them to die was absurd. Just then, his mother called him, asking him to go to the store to buy some things she needed. He gladly agreed, but had a feeling, as if she were telling him to take the notebook with him. Despite his doubts, he took his notebook and a pencil. He used the pencil to cross off the items he already had on the list his mother had given him. When he arrived at the store and bought what his mother had asked for, he saw some men trying to assault a girl. The green-haired boy quickly hid and began to listen. He had to act fast, but without his quirk, he didn't know what to do. If he went and confronted the men, they might have a weapon. Then one of them called his companion by name. The green-haired boy looked at the notebook. Would he really let himself be swayed by something so absurd? But he didn't have time, so he wrote the person's name and the cause of death were specified. He just waited and saw that the girl had managed to escape the men, but one of them tried to follow her and ended up being run over by a truck. This shocked the freckled boy. He grabbed his things and quickly left the place. When he got home, he gave the groceries to his mother and went up to his room. He was incredulous. Izuku. And no, it can't be, really, looking at the notebook, but then shook his head, don't know what I'm thinking, it was just a simple coincidence, yes, that's the most logical reason, but what if it really? Several doubts began to surface in his mind, but before he could do anything, there was a knock on his bedroom door. It was his mother, calling to tell him that dinner was ready. Izuku went downstairs and started eating. During dinner, they were watching the news about how some heroes had apprehended some villains. Then, the reporters announced a live news report about a thief who had taken a family hostage. The heroes were trying to devise a plan to keep them safe, but as the minutes ticked by, the situation worsened. After finishing his meal, Izuku quickly went back upstairs to his room, grabbed his notebook, turned on his computer, and started reading the news. Izuku. Only this will prove if it was a coincidence or if this notebook truly has the power to kill. So he wrote the name and just had to wait. Then everyone saw the thief clutch his chest and fall to the ground. The heroes approached and said he had died of a heart attack. This only shocked the green-haired boy, but then he heard a voice. "That's my notebook." The green-haired boy turned around, seeing a frightening figure, and fell off the chair he was sitting in. Chapter 2. Izuku. Who are you? In a frightened tone. I'm the Shinigami Ryuk. That used to be my death note. Izuku. So this notebook belongs to a Shinigami? In a surprised tone. Izuku. Wow, all of this is very confusing. Taking a seat. Ryuk. Confusing? Technically, you live in a world where people have superpowers and this seems confusing to you? Izuku. Well, it's not every day you find a notebook that will cause someone to die just by writing their name in it, not to mention that it belongs to a Shinigami. Ryuk. Well, I think you're right about that. Izuku. I wonder if you want it back. Giving it to the Shinigami. Ryuk. Not anymore. The notebook becomes part of the human world the moment it touches Earth. In other words, the notebook is now yours. This surprised the green-haired boy, since not only had he discovered that Shinigami existed, but now he held in his hands the most dangerous weapon in the world. Izuku stood up and handed him the notebook. Izuku. I'm sorry, but I can't accept it. If this falls into the wrong hands, it would be a huge danger to the world. I beg you to please take the notebook. Ryuk. Didn't you hear? The notebook now belongs to the human world. If you don't want it, give it to someone else. But if you do, I'll have no choice but to erase your memories of the death note. But I warn you, the human who uses the notebook will not enter either heaven or hell for all eternity. Now you know what awaits you once you die. Saying that, the green-haired boy paused to think. The right thing to do would be to give the notebook to Almight. He would know what to do. But then he thought that perhaps this notebook could be his second chance, so he quickly began typing on his computer. The Shinigami was simply intrigued. Ryuk. Hey, what are you doing? Izuku. This notebook could be my second chance, and if so, then I'm not going to waste it. I know killing people is wrong, but the crime rate has gone up and the heroes hardly do anything. Someone has to do something. Ryuk. So, if you do that, it doesn't make you a villain. The freckled boy thought for a few seconds before speaking. Izuku. Of course not, I'd be more of an anti-hero, just eliminating villains and criminals. Ryuk. I see. The freckled boy grabbed a pencil and quickly began writing down various names. Izuku would start by eliminating the most notorious criminals, those whom the police or heroes had yet to catch, while on the streets, one by one, the criminals began to fall dead. Ryuk. Wait, do you really think this notebook was given to you as a second chance? Receiving a nod, you're wrong. Don't you see? It was all an accident. It just fell near here and you found it, that's all. Izuku. Then why did you drop your notebook, Ryuk-san? And if it was just an accident, why would you write instructions in it? Ryuk. You ask me why? That's because I was bored. Izuku was surprised by the answer. He really did accidentally drop the notebook just so someone would find it and he could have some fun. Before he said anything, they both heard a knock at the door. Izuku panicked, thinking that if his mother saw Ryuk, she would have a heart attack. Ryuk. No problem. Izuku. Are you sure? A little hesitant, but only received a nod. Izuku opened the door. His mother had brought him some fruit. He took it and closed the door again. The freckled boy wondered why his mother hadn't been able to see Ryuk. Ryuk. The notebook you found originally belonged to me, and who are you now? The one using it. You're the only one who can see me, and of course, only you can hear my voice. In other words, the notebook is the bond between Izuku the human and Ryuk the Shinigami. Taking a piece of fruit and eating it, delicious. The apples in the human world are sweet. Izuku. Excuse me, Ryuk-san, but you mentioned the death notes had already fallen into the human world. What happened to the people who used the notebooks? Ryuk. That's not relevant. By the way, why are there only a few names you specified the cause of death for? Izuku. Well, I thought of something. Well, criminals and villains who committed the worst crimes will die in the worst possible way, those less culpable but who cause problems in society will die of a heart attack. All I want is to create a world without violence or corruption, a world where equality exists. It doesn't matter if you have a quirk or not, or if you're rich or poor. Everyone deserves to be treated fairly. In the same way, while each word he said he clenched his fists remembering all the suffering he had to go through. Ryuk. It's just as I imagined, humans are so interesting, he said it in his thoughts. The next morning, the green-haired boy went to class, but this time Ryuk accompanied him. The freckled boy wondered why the Shinigami was with him. Classes went by normally, with Ryuk complaining about how boring they were, but Izuku just ignored him, which annoyed him a little. Ryuk. Hey Izuku, are you listening to me? Izuku. Ryuk-san, unlike you, people can't hear me when I speak. He said it in a low voice. Ryuk. You're so boring. The freckled boy took a different route from his home. Ryuk. Where are we going? This isn't the way to your house. Izuku. Before we go there, I need to talk to someone. Izuku went to a restaurant where the P symbol was located and the two of them talked while Ryuk just listened. Young Midoriya, I have good news. Izuku. Really? I spoke with my friend and he said you could talk to him tomorrow. I'm glad that even though he lost one for all, he still wants to help people, even if it's by being a detective. Izuku. Thank you. The two continued talking until the freckled boy said goodbye to his former teacher and then went home. Ryuk. So you want to be a detective? Izuku. Well, when I lost my quirk, I still wanted to help people, so I told Almight I wanted to be a detective, and he helped me. Also, now that I have the death note, it will be much easier for me to get the names of villains and criminals. Upon hearing that, Ryuk was surprised. Izuku had everything planned out for what he would do from now on. Chapter 3. As the days passed, news reports began to cover the sudden deaths of several villains and criminals, attracting significant media attention. All Might had to hold a press conference to try and calm things down. Many suspected it was due to a quirk, and the mere thought of someone possessing a quirk that could kill whomever they wanted only intensified the fear. Izuku had managed to secure an internship with Detective Namasa. Flashback. Izuku was waiting in the waiting room until he was called. Upon entering the office, he saw the detective filling out some papers. Namasa. Izuku, no, receiving a nod, please take a seat, the green-haired boy sits down. Toshinori told me about you, and I'm very surprised by the things you've done. Izuku. Thank you. Namasa. As you know, you'll have to take 2 exams, one physical and one written. If you want to be a detective, for now I'll just teach you the basics you need to know. Izuku. I understand. Namasa. Here, take this, handing him a sheet of paper. Fill out this form. When you're finished, you can leave it on the table and go. The freckled boy took the form and began filling it out. Just then, a police officer entered and called the detective. As the detective left the office, Izuku quickly went to the computer and plugged in a flash drive. He began downloading everything he could. When he finished, he quickly removed the flash drive and put it away, placed his form on the table, and left. Then flashback. The green-haired boy was in his room talking to Ryuk while the latter ate an apple. Suddenly, there was a knock at his door, so he opened it. His mother told him his friends had come to visit. He went downstairs to greet them and they all went to his room. They were surprised to see that there weren't as many All Might or other hero memorabilia items left. He explained that he needed some money and that's why he had sold them. Everyone seemed to be talking normally. Then Todoroki approached the freckled boy's desk and Ryuk spoke. Ryuk. In your place I would be more careful, if someone else touches the death note you have on the table they could see me too. Having said that, the freckled boy quickly approached the desk and swiftly removed all the notebooks, which confused his friends. Izuku. Sorry I was doing my homework until you arrived, nervous tone, since they almost caught him. Uraraka. No problem Deku-kun. They talked until their friends had to return to UA, saying goodbye to the green-haired boy, who went back to his room where he let out a sigh. Izuku. Ryuk-san, why didn't you tell me that before? I would have gotten myself into serious trouble. In a fit of anger. Ryuk. You didn't ask. This caused Izuku to sweat a drop in an I'm style, without giving it any more thought he went to sleep, while elsewhere Detective Namasa was in a meeting. Show from minute 5 to 9, that is, only the meeting where L is present. The next day, the freckled boy went to school. Everything went normally. After class, Izuku went to a store to buy some things. Ryuk. Hey, buy some apples, there aren't any at your house. Izuku. You really like apples, don't you? Ryuk. In the Shinigami world, apples are disgusting. They don't have the sweet taste that apples from the human world have. By the way, what are all these things for? Izuku. You'll see. He paid for everything and left. Ryuk was eating the apples while Izuku walked without saying a word. The green-haired boy went to an abandoned place where he started doing something with the things he had bought. When he got home, he saw that no one was there, so he quickly went up to his room and started getting everything ready. After a few minutes, he finished, letting out a sigh. Izuku. It was easier than I thought. Ryuk. That means you managed to hide the death note. Izuku. Yes, I hid it in this drawer. Ryuk. But it doesn't look very well hidden. You left the key in the lock. Izuku. That's the point. I intentionally left the key in the most obvious place they could find it. Opening the drawer. Ryuk. That's not just any notebook. Izuku. Yes, it is. I think once people find the notebook on the desk, it'll satisfy their curiosity, but the real key is this. Taking a pen, just an ordinary object you might find on a desk, a regular pen. I just need this part. Ryuk. That's the key. Izuku. That's right. If you look closely, there's a hole at the bottom of the drawer. Just insert this here. Opening it. Ryuk. Ah, a false bottom. The notebook will distract people, so I doubt anyone will find it. Izuku. But that's not all. Even if someone discovers the false bottom, devise a plan to get rid of the death note, you'll see. Thus, explaining how the drawer mechanism worked, this surprised the Shinigami. Ryuk. I've heard of humans who have found death notes, and their biggest problem has been where to hide them. But you, Izuku, are the first to succeed by creating something so elaborate, although it's a bit risky. Izuku. Well, you're right. If I'm careless, I could cause burns, but this is the only way to guarantee that the evidence is destroyed. If they ask me what happened, I'll just say I was creating a device that will help me in the future when I'm a detective. Ryuk. Interesting. The freckled boy went downstairs to the living room to distract himself. When he turned on the television, he tuned into the news, which was reporting something related to UA. This annoyed him a little, as it was tiresome to see other people fulfilling the dream that had been taken from him. But he was interrupted by an advertisement where someone was challenging the green-haired boy to kill him. Obviously, the freckled boy didn't do anything, since he only eliminated criminals. Then the screen changed to a letter, and that letter was L. Chapter 4. Izuku wondered what was happening, but before he could say anything, the one who was broadcasting spoke. L. Kira, I know you're hearing this message since it's being broadcast worldwide. I have a question for you. Why do you only kill criminals? What is your true intention? But more importantly, who do you think you are to kill people? I don't know if you're trying to be a hero, but if that's what you're aiming for, let me tell you, you're wrong. You're nothing more than a villain, a thug who kills just for pleasure or fun. Every word L said angered the freckled boy. Who did he think he was to call him a villain? He had actually lowered the crime rate. So he had an idea. He would kill just 2 heroes to show him that every action has its price. He searched the police files for heroes who had some fame, but were actually worthless. When he found their names, he quickly wrote them down. Izuku. Let's see what you think of this, L. I waited until time ran out, and the 2 heroes who were walking down the street fell to the ground dead. People were horrified by what had happened, and a commotion began. Meanwhile, L had seen what happened. L. Wow, your response was quick, but let me tell you something. Thanks to what you just did, I know you're in Japan. I'll tell you something I think you'll find interesting. Even though this was announced as a worldwide broadcast, the truth is we're only broadcasting it in Japan. I was planning to broadcast it to every part of the world until I found you. I'm interested in how you managed to kill people, but I don't mind waiting a little longer. We'll meet again very soon, Kira. As the transmission ended, Izuku was in shock. He had fallen into his own trap, letting his anger blind him and preventing him from thinking things through. Ryuk, meanwhile, just started laughing at the situation. Izuku. TSK, you miserable wretch. Ryuk. Hahaha, now what are you supposed to do? Izuku. Sighing, that's easy. As an intern, I'll have access to many files. All I have to do is find out about this L guy. Not to mention, I have friends who are on their way to becoming heroes. A professor will probably have them investigate what's going on. You could say I have a bit of an advantage, but I still can't get overconfident. Ryuk. 2 individuals who don't know each other's faces or names, a battle to see who will be the first to finish off the other. Without a doubt, humans are interesting people. He thought to himself. The next day, the freckled boy went to his academy, and from there he went to do his internship since Naomasa had called him and said he'd been accepted. When he arrived at the detective's office, Naomasa simply told him what he would be doing there and what he would learn during his stay. Izuku simply nodded. He waited for Naomasa to be distracted so he could update the list. He had to find a better way to get information without taking too many risks. When his internship ended, he headed home, but on the way, Ryuk told him they were being followed, which put the green-haired boy on alert. When he arrived, he couldn't help but think about what had happened with L. He realized he hadn't had time to read the Death Note's instructions. Maybe he'd find the answer there. After a few minutes of reading, he found what he needed. Izuku. That's it. Excited. Ryuk. What is it? Izuku. Maybe this will help me distract L and the heroes a little. When I was reading the instructions, I came across something that caught my attention. I'll use the Death Note's rules to my advantage. I know that if I write the cause of death, I have 6 minutes and 40 seconds to describe the conditions and the exact time of death. I need to know how specific I can be with the details. This will be interesting. Looks like I'll give you more fun, Ryuk. Having said that, he began to write in the notebook. It didn't take him long to finish. Now all he had to do was wait. The next day, he waited patiently for his internship. Upon arriving, he waited again for the detective to leave, updating his files once more. When he got home, he opened them, seeing that his little experiment had worked. Izuku. Wow, it seems it worked. Ryuk. What? Approaching. Izuku. I took 6 prisoners to test something. For the first one, I wrote that he should escape and die in the bathroom, and that's exactly what happened. Another drew the same symbol I drew, and finally, another wrote the same letter I wrote word for word. For the last 3, I set conditions that were virtually impossible. But the first one, I specified that he had to die in front of the Eiffel Tower within an hour, but we know it's physically impossible for a prisoner to take a plane from Japan to Paris in an hour. Since that couldn't happen, he died of a heart attack. The second one had to draw L's face in his cell, but that's impossible. How can you draw someone you've never seen? And with the last one, I specified that he should write, I know L suspects the Japanese police. To be honest, I thought this last one would work, but it didn't. Which means it's impossible to make someone write something they don't know, or at least something they can think of themselves. In short, not even the Death Note can do the impossible, but as long as it's within a person's realistic limits, I can control them as much as I want before they die. Ryuk. Interesting. Izuku. This will be very useful to me to eliminate the person who was following me a while ago. Meanwhile, elsewhere, specifically at the airport, a girl can be seen leaving the premises. Ah, I've finally arrived in Japan. Stretching a little, while smiling. Chapter 5. The girl hailed a taxi, giving the driver the address. The driver took her there, and upon arrival, she saw a figure she quickly recognized and went towards him. Uncle Might, hugging him. Melissa, it's so good to see you. Tell me, how was your trip? Melissa. It was long since my plane was delayed a bit. By the way, I heard what happened to Midoriya-san. In a sad tone. He did it to protect his friends, but even though he lost his quirk, he still wants to save people. That's why he wants to become a detective. Melissa. I see. Smiling, by the way, is he still studying at UA? Receiving a shake of his head. He was transferred to a regular academy. Why do you ask? Melissa. And no reason. Blushing, it's just that I wanted to see my friend. I haven't seen him since he went to Island. Laughing, if you want, I can give you the name of the academy he studies at, but first, how about we go so you can unpack and rest a bit? I bet the trip left you exhausted. Melissa. Of course. Smiling. Meanwhile, the green-haired boy was thinking about what he could do now that he knew the limits of the Death Note. He was also a little worried because something was amiss at the police station. The freckled boy now had to be more discreet because if he were L, he would investigate everyone in the office. And he wasn't wrong, because a few days ago, Detective Namasa, along with others who wanted to catch Kira, were surprised when they finally saw L. He was a black-haired man with somewhat disheveled hair, and he also seemed to hardly sleep. His sitting posture was rather strange. At first, some thought he was just someone pretending to be the real L, but he quickly proved that he was the authentic one. They would investigate those who had access to the police information. When L was looking at the green-haired boy's file, he asked Namasa who it belonged to. Namasa told him that he was an intern who had previously studied at UA to become a hero. This caught the black-haired boy's attention, but he didn't want to leave any loose ends. L asked Namasa if he had spoken to the freckled boy about Kira, to which he replied no, since he was just an intern. Thanks to the files, Izuku discovered something, or rather someone, that might be useful. Waiting for recess, Izuku looked around until he found him and approached. Izuku. Can I sit down? Light. Sure. Not paying attention. Izuku. We've never really talked much, only a few times, right, Light? Light. What do you want, Midoriya? Looking at him. Izuku. Nothing, I was just thinking that maybe we could be friends. Giving him a smile. Light. Sure, no problem. Izuku. Great. By the way, Light, do you have anything to do after school? Light. No, why do you ask? Izuku. I was wondering if you wanted to hang out and get to know each other better, only if you want to, of course. A little embarrassed. Light. Okay. Then they heard the bell ringing, implying that the recess was over. Light. I'll see you at the end of class. He gets up and leaves, leaving the green-haired boy alone. The freckled boy went to the bathroom and then the Shinigami spoke. Ryuk. Hey, why do you suddenly want to be friends with that kid? Izuku. That simple. In the last files I extracted from Detective Namasa's computer, I saw a name, and that was Light's father's name. Ryuk. Haha, how clever. At the end of classes, Izuku and Light went to a park to talk. Izuku knew how intelligent and deductive Light was, so he had to be careful. Light only asked him a few questions, but what surprised him was learning that the green-haired boy was a prospective hero. As it got late, the two said goodbye. When Izuku arrived home, he let out a sigh. Ryuk. Wow, that was exhausting. Izuku. What are you talking about? All you do is follow me everywhere. Ryuk. Watching what you do is exhausting for me. By the way, Izuku, I want to tell you that I'm not on anyone's side. I don't support Lower Kira. I'm just a simple spectator. You won't see me giving my opinion on whether what you're doing is right or wrong. I'm only here until the notebook runs out or until you die, whichever comes first. Izuku. Sighing, I figured as much. Ryuk. I'm going to tell you a secret. Do you know what differentiates a Shinigami from a human who has a death note? Receiving a shake of his head, there are two things. Why do Shinigami write people's names in their death notes? Do you have any idea? Izuku. No, why? A little curious. Ryuk. It's because we can use their lifespans for ourselves. Izuku. Lifespans. Confused. Ryuk. Let's say a human should live until 60 years old. If a god of the death write that person will die at 40. 60 minus 40 equals 20. Those 20 years taken from someone in the human world are added to the life of the god of death. This means that as long as we aren't lazy, even if we're shot in the head or stabbed in the heart, we won't die. On the other hand, no matter how many names you write in your death note, your lifespan doesn't increase. Izuku. That's incredible. Ryuk. The second difference between us might interest you, although it's more about reducing your life than lengthening it. Izuku. What do you mean by reducing it? Ryuk. A Shinigami can know a person's name just by looking at them. We know instantly. Do you have any idea why? Because through a Shinigami's eyes, the person's name is seen above their head, and not only that, but also their lifespan. I see your name and lifespan right now. If I convert them to human time, I can know how many years you have left to live, but that's something I'd tell you. Maybe I'm talking too much, but I'd never go that far. A Shinigami shouldn't worry about not being able to kill someone. However, if a Shinigami drops their death note and a human picks it up, they can grant them the eyes of a Shinigami, but only if a deal is struck, one that has existed since time immemorial. Izuku. What's the deal? Ryuk. The price for the eyes is half that person's lifespan. Izuku. I understand. As his hair covered his eyes. Chapter 6. Ryuk. So we have a deal. Izuku. Forget it. Looking at the Shinigami, listen, Ryuk, I'm not going to accept the Shinigami eyes if it means shortening my life. And since you made it clear you weren't on any side, then you won't tell me L's name. Also, I don't know how much time I have left, and if I shorten it, maybe I won't be able to create the world I want. If you had told me before, or better yet, written it in the death note, maybe I would have considered it. So that option is out, Ryuk. He said this in a serious tone. Ryuk. Well, now you know the deal exists, in case you change your mind. Izuku. Sighing. The green-haired boy lay down on his bed, he was really tired. Besides, he had to deal with Light. He knew that if he went too fast, Light would suspect what he was plotting, but if he went too slowly, L might catch him. Without realizing it, he had fallen asleep. When he woke up, he saw that it was daytime. Luckily, classes had been cancelled, leaving him alone with his internship. What bothered him was that he was no longer allowed in Namasa's office, which was a problem since he didn't know what was going on. He still had a list of a few criminals. Maybe he would use them for something. When he finished his internship, he decided to call Light to see if he was free, but then he received a call from his friends. He had forgotten that they met on Fridays to go out, so he quickly went to meet them, but stopped at a store to buy apples, giving them to Ryuk. The day passed with Izuku talking with his friends, but the bi-colored boy kept watching him, which had made the freckled boy nervous. Shoto had noticed his friends starting to act strangely. Maybe the others hadn't realized it, but he'd noticed the changes when the freckled boy stopped him from touching his things. At first, he thought he still hadn't gotten used to losing his quirk, but he dismissed that idea after noticing certain things. Izuku was playing the shy kid, but in his mind, he wondered if the bi-colored boy had already noticed the sudden change. His friends told him that Melissa had decided to enroll at UA and join the support program. That really surprised the freckled boy, since Almight hadn't said anything to her. He thought Almight might have forgotten because he wanted to spend time with his niece. Finally, they said their goodbyes, and as they did, the freckled boy sighed. He headed home but decided to buy a soda, so he went into a store where he bumped into Light. Izuku. Light. Light. Oh Midoriya, what are you doing here? Well, grabbing some chips. Izuku. I just came to buy a soda, and you? Light. I just came to buy a few things, since I just got out of class. Izuku. Wow, you study at night. Receiving a nod, that explains why you're the smartest in the class. Light. Well, I was the smartest until you came along. Izuku. Sorry if I took that title from you. In an embarrassed tone. So they both paid for their things. Light. It doesn't matter, well, see you later. Izuku. Wait, you're going that way too? Seeing that they were both going in the same direction. Light. Yes, why? Izuku. Well, I'm going that way too, we can go together if you want. Light. I don't see a problem. So the two started walking along the path, neither of them saying a word. Izuku knew it was a bit rushed, but he had no other choice. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a black-haired man could be seen analyzing the events of the past few days. That person was L, who was thinking about how to catch him, but what he was thinking about most was the freckled boy. He wasn't 100% sure, but something told him that he was Kira. With that, he took out his cell phone and dialed a number that answered almost immediately. L. Watari, I want to have an interview with the director of UA. Watari. Did something happen? Calmly. L. Maybe I'll find a clue there to catch Kira. Watari. I understand, I'll make sure you have a meeting with the director. Thus the call ended, while at UA Melissa could be seen finishing her invention. When she finished, she sighed and went to her room. As she passed by a classroom, she heard the principal's voice. He seemed to be talking to someone. She didn't pay much attention until she heard the name L. This filled her with curiosity. She looked around to make sure no one was there and then approached the door. Nezu. Very well, I can have that meeting with him tomorrow. It will be a pleasure to assist in this investigation, and it will also be interesting to learn how he manages to commit these murders. We will provide him with everything he needs, but may I ask why he wants information about young Midoriya? Upon hearing that, Melissa covered her mouth to stifle a gasp of surprise, but quickly left the scene. When she reached her room, several questions raced through her mind. Why did Elle want to know about Midoriya? Did he have something to do with the murders? Thinking this, she quickly shook her head. Melissa. No, what am I thinking? Midoriya wouldn't kill people. Meanwhile, Izuku was talking to Light. Izuku. So tell me, Light, what do you think of the world? Light. Why do you ask? Izuku. Well, I mean, what do you think of the world now that the crime rate has dropped, not to mention that it's all because of Kira? Light. I don't know, honestly, I think what he's doing is right. Besides, the world was rotting before Kira appeared, although many wonder how he manages to commit those murders. After saying that, he saw that the freckled boy had also stopped behind. Light. Is something wrong, Midoriya? Izuku. Light, I want you to know something. He said it in a serious and cold tone. Light. And what is that? In a confused tone. Izuku. Light, I. Chapter 7. Izuku. Light, I am Kira, in a serious tone. There was a brief moment of silence. Light was surprised, but then he wondered if what the freckled boy was saying was true. He knew that many people called themselves Kira. Light. Do you really think I'll believe you're Kira? In a serious tone. Izuku. Why would I lie about that? Light. I don't know. Why do you want attention? Besides, if you were Kira, why would you tell me? I could go to the police or a hero to get you arrested. Izuku. I'm telling you because I need your help. If you want me to prove it, when you get home, turn on the TV, wait until 10 o'clock, and put on the news. A wanted criminal will rob a bank. When he sees he's surrounded, he'll open fire on the police and heroes. He'll use up almost all his bullets, leaving only one to finish by shooting himself, ending his life. If after what you see you think it's just a coincidence, I have more methods to prove that I'm Kira. It will just depend on you whether you believe it. Saying that, he started walking, leaving the boy behind. The freckled boy turned around, waving goodbye. Light didn't know if what the freckled boy had said was true. All he could do was see if it was. He waited for the appointed time and turned on his television, and just as the freckled boy had said, it happened. Light was in shock at what had just occurred, while the freckled boy was at home, turning off the television and stretching. Ryuk. Do you think he saw it? Izuku. Maybe, I'd just have to wait. He took an apple and threw it at Ryuk. Just then, a message arrived on his phone. Checking it, he saw it was from Light. Reading it, he saw that Light wanted to see him tomorrow. So, he put his phone aside and smiled. The next day, the freckled boy went to the designated place. Izuku had prepared a plan in case Light wanted more proof that he was Kira. Ryuk, for his part, didn't know what the freckled boy was planning, since he had told him to just observe. When Izuku arrived, he greeted Light, who returned the greeting. The two decided to spend the day as normal, but Ryuk told Izuku that he was being followed. Izuku said he was going to the bathroom. When he got there, he checked to make sure no one was around. Izuku? You say we're being followed? Ryuk? That's right. I wouldn't normally say anything, but since I go to all the places you go, it's like I'm being watched too. Izuku? I see. This is going to be a problem. Maybe L has already started investigating the police department. Ryuk? What are you going to do now? Izuku? I'll try to eliminate whoever's following us. For now, I'll stick to the original plan. Checking the time on his phone, I have to hurry. Saying that, he left the bathroom and went to Light. Izuku suggested they go somewhere less crowded. They took the bus and sat near the back. Izuku noticed a strange person sitting behind them and deduced that this person was following them. The freckled boy carefully told Light that they were being followed and that it was the person behind them. Light understood, so they just talked about school stuff and whether they were nervous about upcoming exams. At the next stop, a criminal appeared. He had been on the news. The criminal pulled out a gun. Light saw Izuku and noticed his smile, so he deduced that Izuku had planned it. Everything unfolded just like in the original series, with the criminal seeing Ryuk and ultimately being run over. Izuku also discovered the name of the person who had been following him. The two went home, but on the way, Izuku noticed that Light wasn't saying anything. Then he heard something. Light? So Kira no. Izuku? That's right. There was a brief moment when Light started laughing, which confused the green-haired boy. Izuku? Is everything alright? Light? Yeah, it's just that I'm standing in front of a murderer. Izuku? Hey, offended, so you want to help me? Light? Give me one reason to do it. Izuku? We'll cleanse the world little by little. I've been watching you, and you know, just like I do, that the world is slowly rotting away. I want you to help me create a better place for everyone. Light? Are you telling me you want to be the god of the new world? Izuku? Call it what you want. If you believe I'll be the god of the new world, I want you, Light Yagami, to be my right-hand man. What do you say? Extending his hand. Light? Sighing, fine. Tell me what you need me to do. Shaking his hand. Izuku? I want you to help me get some information. I know your father is a police officer. What I want is information about what's going on in the police force. Light? But didn't you do an internship to become a detective? Izuku? That's right, but thanks to L, I don't anymore. I can't get information. I usually get it from Detective Namasa's computer, but now L is investigating the police because he suspects someone is getting information from within. Light? I understand, but I only have 2 questions. Izuku? Go ahead, tell me. Already knowing what he wanted to know. Light? The first is that I want to know how you commit murder, and the second is what that criminal saw when he shot into nothing. Izuku? First, I commit that thanks to this. Taking out a piece of paper. Light? A piece of paper? Izuku? No, this is a sheet of paper from a notebook. When I write that person's name and think of them, that person will die. And the second thing is, what that criminal saw was a Shinigami. Light? A Shinigami? Confused. Izuku? Touch the paper and you'll see. Light was confused but it agreed to help him, so he touched the paper. Then he saw a creature flying behind the freckled boy, which made him back away, but he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Light? What the hell is that thing? Surprised. Chapter 8. Izuku? He's Ryuk and he's the Shinigami that criminal saw. Light? I understand. Regaining his composure, so, what will we do now? Izuku? That's simple. I want you to help me get information about the names of criminals and some heroes. I also want you to help me find out L's name. I think L is working with your father. Light? Okay, I'll send everything to your email. But I don't think my father will tell me L's name or anything about the job. Besides, even if he did, wouldn't it be suspicious if L died after telling me? Izuku? That's something I'll take care of. Well, we'll talk later. I have to go. Thus leaving the place, upon arriving home he sat down at his desk. Izuku? Well. Looking at Ryuk. Ryuk? Well, what? Izuku? You've been quiet since Light saw you. You didn't seem surprised. Ryuk? I don't care what you do with the notebook, but I don't like you dragging me into your business. Angrily. Izuku? Sighing, sorry, I'll keep that in mind next time. Elsewhere, Watari could be seen facing the UA director and the symbol of peace while holding a computer in his hands on which L was located. Nezu? Here are the files you requested, but I have a question because you specifically want to know about young Midoriya. L. Well, director, I want to tell you that I suspect Izuku Midoriya is Kira. This was like a bucket of cold water for the director. Nezu? Sorry, still in disbelief. L. I still suspect him at 3%, but he doesn't finish because he hears a thud coming from the symbol of peace. What right do you have to say that? Young Midoriya is someone who helps people. Besides, we still don't know if Kira has a quirk that allows him to kill people. L. You must be his teacher. Besides, Kira doesn't have a quirk. That's already been ruled out. Nezu. Please explain. L. It's already been proven that Kira doesn't have a quirk or that there's anyone who has a quirk that allows them to kill anyone they want without being present. I know this by investigating the medical records of every resident living in this part of Japan. It took me some time, but I discovered that no one has a quirk like that or anything similar. As for why I suspect it's Izuku, well, the murders started happening a few weeks before Izuku lost his quirk. When he was transferred to another institution, the murders started a few days later. That could just be one. It's just a coincidence that young Midoriya wouldn't even be able to kill a fly. L. Perhaps you're right about that, but I won't rule out the idea that he's Kira, and until I do, Izuku Midoriya will remain a suspect. Well, that's all from me. Thank you for the information, Director Nezu. As he said that, the screen went black. Watari took the documents and left. When he got to his car, he took the files and sent them to L, who began to read them. Days passed, during which countless large-scale murders occurred, something that surprised L, since he didn't know how so many criminals, villains, and some heroes had died in such a short time. This was because Izuku had sent Light some pages of the Death Note and Light had been following the freckled boy's instructions. Izuku had told him to be careful not to leave them lying around since someone else could see Ryuk. L decided to place cameras in the homes of the officers who were under suspicion, including Light and Izuku. The freckled boy had noticed that someone had forced their way into his house, so he went up to his room and acted as if nothing had happened while Ryuk spoke to him, but Izuku ignored him. After a few minutes, the green-haired boy told his mother that he was going to train, and so he left. As she left home, she texted Light to arrange a meeting and also told him to take a good look at her clothes. Ryuk. Hey, why are you ignoring me? Izuku. Looking through his clothes, but finding nothing, he sighed. Listen, Ryuk, someone broke into my house. Ryuk. What are you talking about? Everything seemed normal. Izuku. If you look closely at the front door, you can see how someone forced it open, and they did it so professionally that no one would notice. Ryuk. I see. Izuku. Hey, Ryuk, can the security cameras see you? Ryuk. No, but if they see me eating an apple, they'd only see it levitating and disappearing when I put it in my mouth. Izuku. I understand. Then he saw Light and approached him. Izuku explained the situation, which Light quickly understood was a serious problem. Until they removed the cameras, they wouldn't be able to continue eliminating criminals. Izuku told him not to worry, as they could do it anywhere where no one could see them. But if they stopped, L would only become more suspicious. With that, the two said their goodbyes and headed back home. On the way, Izuku was having a conversation with Ryuk. Izuku. Ryuk, do you remember our conversation? Ryuk. About the cameras seeing the apples levitate and disappear. Izuku. That's right, I've found the solution. Ryuk. Really? What is it? Izuku. You said Shinigami don't die, so it won't kill you to stop eating them for a while. Ryuk. Don't you think that's excessive? Please, I hadn't told you, but for me, apples are like cigarettes and alcohol for humans. If I quit, I'll get withdrawal symptoms. Izuku. Really? What are the symptoms? Curious tone. Ryuk. My body twists, I do handstands. It's not pretty. Izuku. If you really need to eat apples, you'll have to find out where all the cameras are. Luckily, you'll find a blind spot where you can eat them without being seen. While he was outside his house. Ryuk. Yes, let's find cameras. So the two of them entered. Chapter 9. Ryuk searched the entire house for cameras and microphones while Izuku did his homework. L watched. Everything seemed normal. L was surprised to see the room of someone obsessed with the symbol of peace. It even sent a shiver down his spine. But other than that, everything seemed normal. Light's room was also that of a normal boy, someone diligent in his studies, but something didn't add up. Back with Izuku, he had already finished his homework, so he decided to rest for a while. He took his phone and lay down on his bed. By then, Ryuk had finished his search. Izuku. Let's see if there's anything interesting, referring to Ryuk. Ryuk. I found all the cameras and microphones while sitting down in a chair. The freckled boy signaled that he couldn't speak. Ryuk. I did it, Izuku. I found all the cameras in the house. I think Shinigami get tired when they work too much. I'll explain where they are. It's a bit complicated, so pay attention. Nothing bothers me more than explaining something twice. Izuku. Wow, this looks interesting. Ryuk. There are a lot of cameras in this room. I counted 64 in total. I suppose whoever put them there, I was hoping you'd find at least a few. Izuku. Too bad. I'll have to charge my phone. Getting out of bed and plugging in his phone. Ryuk. What I want to know is how I'll be able to eat apples. Looking at the freckled boy, oh, right, you can't talk here, but we'll talk tomorrow. Izuku. Okay. I wonder if mom's made dinner yet. As she sat on her bed, she began to analyze what was happening. Izuku. Judging by the number of cameras, it's clear she's planning something soon. Anyone would make a mistake in these circumstances, but not me. I won't fall for your tricks again. L. He was jolted out of his thoughts by the sound of a knock at his door. It was his mother calling him for dinner. He went downstairs and ate. After finishing his meal, he decided to grab some snacks for later. Izuku was grateful to have won a small television, just big enough to fit in his pocket. He never used it, though, since he always had something to do. Back in his room, he closed and locked the door, telling his mother not to bother him because he wanted to study for his upcoming exams. The green-haired boy sat down, opened the bag of chips, grabbed his notebooks, and started studying. Izuku. I won't let anyone get in my way, you'll see what I'm capable of. L. So he started writing. The cameras just watched as the freckled boy wrote in his notebook and ate something, nothing out of the ordinary. But the truth is that Izuku, before reaching for a snack, would write the name of the criminal appearing on his small television screen. He continued like this until the news ended, then he sighed and stretched in his chair. Izuku. I think that's all for today, I'd better go to sleep. So he turned everything off and went to sleep, while at Light's house, he suddenly looked around, wondering where the cameras might have been placed. After a few minutes, he had only located about 5 cameras. It was annoying, to be honest, having your privacy invaded just because you're a suspect, but he had to stay calm. It wasn't the time to lose control. His sister came into his room to ask him to help her with some exercises, since she didn't quite understand them. Elle had seen everything, but was interrupted by Watari, who said that just moments before, the criminals mentioned on the news had died. This surprised the dark-haired man. Meanwhile, Naomasa and Light's father told him that Izuku and Light were innocent, but Elle told them that it was only the first day the cameras were installed and that they should wait a little longer. Elle. That's all for today. You can go home and rest. We'll continue the investigation tomorrow. Watari, could you bring me Midoriya's file again? I want to make sure I haven't missed anything. Watari. Of course, I'll bring it to you in a moment. So those who were there left, leaving only the dark-haired boy staring intently at the freckled boy lying on his bed. Something inside him told him he had to be more careful with him. Watari handed him the files and left, leaving Al to review them. The next day, Izuku received a message from someone, which puzzled him since he didn't know how that person had gotten his number. So he texted Light to arrange a meeting. The freckled boy took some pages from the death note and put them in his pocket before leaving the house. When he met Light, he told him to take care of the man who had been chasing them that day, handing him the pages in an envelope. He also gave him some instructions for when he confronted the agent. Light simply nodded and the two went their separate ways. Light would take care of killing the FBI agent, while Izuku would meet with the person who had sent him the message. Light had waited a while to locate the agent, then approached him from behind and told him he was Kira. He also demonstrated this by killing someone. And so, everything unfolded as in the original story involves Light killing the agent, who then writes down the names of the other agents in Japan. Meanwhile, Izuku arrives at the location but sees no one. Suddenly, hands cover his eyes and instinctively, he quickly moves away. His expression is serious, but it quickly changes to surprise when he discovers who it is. I'm so glad to see you again, Izuku-kun, giving him a smile. Izuku. Mimi Melissa, in a surprised tone. Chapter 10. Izuku. Mimi Melissa, surprised tone. Melissa. That's right, smiling. Izuku. When did you arrive in Japan? Melissa. Not long ago. By the way, I heard what happened with your quirk. I'm sorry, sad tone. Izuku. It's okay. I did what anyone would have done. Besides, I'm thinking of becoming a detective, smiling. So, what brings you to Japan? Melissa. Well, I came to Japan to study at UA in the support course. Izuku. Congratulations. You'll be able to fulfill your dream of helping heroes with your inventions. Melissa. Thanks. Hey, Izuku-kun, how about we go have some fun? Grabbing the freckled boy's arm and pulling him. Izuku. Sure. The two went to different places while talking about the things they did after Izuku left island. They were both having fun, but Izuku noticed that Melissa wanted to tell him something, but was afraid to say it. Izuku. Melissa, is everything alright? In a questioning tone. Melissa. Oh, yes, why do you ask? Izuku. I've noticed you want to ask me something. You know you can tell me anything you want. If you need anything, I'll be happy to help. Giving her a smile. Melissa. Well, still hesitant. Izuku. Don't worry, I won't pressure you. You can tell me when you're ready. As I began to walk. Melissa. I overheard the principal talking to someone about you supposedly being Kira. Having said that, the freckled boy stopped moving. Melissa couldn't see his expression, but Izuku was somewhere between angry, scared, and confused. Izuku? That jerk probably already suspects me, but why did he go to UA? Wait a minute, maybe the principal gave him all my information. That explains the cameras. TSK, crap. If I don't do something soon, he'll figure out I'm Kira in no time. He thought to himself. Ryuk, seeing the situation he was in, started laughing, which annoyed the green-haired man even more. Melissa? Is everything alright? A little worried that he wasn't saying anything. Izuku? Yes, I'm fine. Turning around and giving her a smile, it's just that you surprised me. So, tell me, what exactly did you hear from me? Melissa? Well, I didn't hear much. So she began to tell him what she had heard. After a few hours, they said goodbye. Izuku asked for her number to stay in touch, which she gladly accepted. Izuku walked her to the train station so she could return to UA. After that, Izuku checked his phone and saw he had a few messages from Light. Izuku was happy to hear something good today. Now he had to think about what he would do about UA. He didn't want to hurt his friends, but if they got in his way, he would have no choice but to get rid of them. When he got home, he lay down on his bed. He couldn't write in the death note or make a mistake while the cameras were in his house, so he went downstairs to make dinner. When he finished eating, he left some food on a plate for his mother to use when she got home. Then he went to sleep. Luckily, tomorrow was Saturday. Meanwhile, elsewhere, L had learned that the FBI agent had died, which only made him more suspicious, since he had discovered that the agent had been following the next morning. Izuku texted Light, telling him to take the day off, since he had some things to take care of. Light hadn't planned on doing anything until his mother called him to bring clothes to his father. When he went to the office, he saw a girl trying to talk to someone working with L on the Kira investigation. This put Light on guard, and everything unfolded as in the original story, with Light killing the FBI agent's wife. Meanwhile, Izuku was doing his internship, still thinking about what to do. Then he remembered Melissa. The freckled boy didn't want to hurt his friends or involve them in his affairs, but L had crossed a line. If he was capable of putting cameras in his house, he didn't know what else he was capable of. He was tempted to accept Ryuk's deal, but luckily he came to his senses and dismissed the idea. Izuku knew this was a risky move and might not work, but he had to take the chance. Now his new objective was to try to a romantic relationship with Melissa would be the best option, not only because of her vast knowledge of invention, but also because she could take advantage of being the niece of the symbol of peace. Not to mention, she could ask him to steal files from the principal's computer. She would not only have access to conversations with important people, but also to the real names of all the heroes. With that in mind, he let out a laugh. Namasa. Everything's alright. Bringing the freckled boy back to reality. Izuku. Yeah, it's just that I remembered a joke. Curses himself for letting his thoughts get the better of him so easily. Namasa. I understand. That's all for today. You can go now. Izuku. Sure, see you tomorrow. Leaving the police station, Izuku went to buy apples for Ryuk since he found it strange to see his body twisted, and by giving them to him, Ryuk returned to normal. Ryuk. You know, you haven't been very nice to me. You make me look for cameras, you deny me apples. It's not right. Izuku. I'm sorry, but now I have to be more careful than ever. Ryuk. Maybe I'll write your name in my death note to kill you, just like that. Izuku. If you did that, you'd have to go back to the Shinigami world or find someone else to entertain you, don't you think? Starting to walk. Ryuk. You humans always think you're invincible. While following the freckled boy. Izuku. It's in our nature. We humans will do anything to survive, even if it means sacrificing our own to get what we want. You still have a long way to go to understand humans, Ryuk. Ryuk. And what will you do now that you know L already knows you? Izuku. For now, I'll go home and study. Tomorrow is the day the exams start and I have to be prepared. Thus entering his house. Chapter 11. The next day, the freckled boy was with Light in a room, ready to take the exam. The exam itself wasn't difficult for either of them, but what caught their attention was a black-haired man sitting in an odd position. His name was Hideki Ryuga, like the name of a famous artist. They wondered who this guy was since they'd never seen him before. After a few hours, Izuku and Light finished the exams and headed home. All they had to do was wait for the results. Izuku had tried to convince Light to be the one to accept the Shinigami eyes, but he refused. The freckled boy knew he couldn't pressure him. 2 days later, the results were published. As expected, the duo had scored among the best with a perfect score, but there was another person who also achieved a perfect score. Everyone was gathered in a large hall so that those with the highest scores could say a few words. Izuku couldn't help but feel uncomfortable since he had to sit next to the black-haired man who was staring at him without even trying to hide it. That's what their teacher called them. The three of them went in and said what they had to say, then returned to their seats, but this time the freckled boy sat next to Light, but the other boy sat next to him. Izuku was about to tell him what he wanted, but the man spoke first. Deity. I know this will heal suddenly, but I am L. The freckled boy was surprised, as was Light, who managed to hear him. He discreetly noticed that Izuku maintained a neutral expression, so he did the same, while the freckled boy's head was filling with questions. Izuku. That this guy is L. No, it can't be him. L has shown that he uses people to maintain his identity, but if the person in front of me is the real L, there's nothing I can do. Besides, if the name he's using is just an alias, if I write it in the death note and the real Hideki Ryuga dies, then L will catch me. That's why Ryuk hasn't stopped laughing for the past few moments. He can see his real name. Hideki. The reason I told you my name is because I want you to help me with the Kira investigation. Also, I suspect you're Kira, Izuku. I suspect about 5% of you. Well, I have no suspicions about Light for now, but something tells me you work very well together. That's why I want you to work with me. The green-haired boy was getting stressed, especially when he heard the Shinigami's laughter, but he had to keep his intentions to himself, so he spoke. Izuku. How do I know you're telling the truth? Light. What do you mean by that? Trying to sound confused. Izuku. You see, it's clear that L paid you to simply say you were him, just like what happened when L provoked Kira into killing that criminal. And even if it weren't that case, there are many people who impersonate L or Kira. Light. You're right, many people have claimed to be Kira or have said they know the person. Izuku. But if you're telling the truth, then let me tell you, L, it's an honor to meet you. Receiving a nod from Light. The dark-haired man said nothing and carefully analyzed the boy's words. They were right. Their arguments were solid. Besides, how would you expect someone to react if they told you they were Kira or L? They'd probably just laugh at you, but if they decided to believe you, they'd ask for proof that what you said was true. The event had ended and everyone started to leave. Izuku didn't hear the man say another word, but they only saw him stop in front of them. Hideki. You're right, you probably think my words are just for attention, but I'd like us to talk about this tomorrow. Does that sound good? That way you can clear up your doubts and I'll clear up mine. Does that sound good? As he got into a car. Izuku. That sounds the most logical thing to do. Turning to look at Light. Light. That sounds good to me. Hideki. Perfect, then we'll continue talking about this tomorrow. So the car moved on. Izuku didn't say anything on the way home. Light had told him what they were going to do, but Izuku told him to just wait and see what the dark-haired man wanted to know so he could come up with a strategy. When Izuku arrived home, he greeted his mother and went into his room. Ryuk told him that the cameras and microphones had been removed so he could eat his apples again. Izuku sat down at his desk but quickly knocked everything off it, which surprised Ryuk. Izuku. Damn it, he caught me. Angry tone. Ryuk. What do you mean? Izuku. I was careless and underestimated him. Damn it, he suspects me now. If I make one wrong move, it's over. Ryuk. Hey, why don't you accept the Shinigami eyes? That way you can kill him. Izuku. What good are the Shinigami eyes if it turns out to be a trap? If I kill him and it turns out he's not L, I'll be announcing to the real L that I'm Kira. Ryuk. Oh, sorry. Izuku. Now I have to get everything moving. I just hope things don't get any more complicated. Taking out his phone. Ryuk. What are you doing? Izuku. I'll send a message to Light so he can investigate if that guy is the real L. I'll also send a message to Melissa saying I want to see her tomorrow at the park. Ryuk. Hey, Izuku, one question. Izuku. What? Looking at Ryuk. Ryuk. I know I'm nobody to say this and it's not like I care, but have you ever had bride? The comment shocked the green-haired boy. It was true, he had never had a girlfriend or any romantic interest since he was too shy to talk to or approach a girl. The only friend he had ever had was Uraraka. Izuku. It can't be that hard, right? Seeing Ryuk shrug his shoulders nonchalantly, I think this is going to be a problem. Chapter 12. The next day, Izuku and Light went to school wondering what L had planned for them. Light, however, was preoccupied with how to get Melissa to go out with him. He already had a plan, but the problem was how to execute it. Planning was easy, but carrying it out was difficult. When classes ended, they went to meet L. Upon arriving, they saw the dark-haired man waiting for them. The two took their seats and L began by asking them a series of questions, which they both answered correctly. Then, the dark-haired man told them about some letters that hadn't been published in the press, letters written by criminals before their deaths. Everything unfolded as in the original story, with Light receiving a call from L informing him that Light's father had suffered a heart attack. The three of them rushed to check on him. Light gave the green-haired man a serious look, to which the man gestured that he hadn't done anything wrong. When they arrived, they were informed that it was due to extreme stress. Light's father also confirmed that the dark-haired man was the real L. Izuku was shocked, as was Light, but they both hid it. L told them he wanted them involved in the Kira investigation. Light agreed, as this would allow him to get closer to L and learn his true identity. Izuku, for his part, didn't give a definitive answer, as he wasn't entirely sure. The black-haired boy and the green-haired boy left, leaving the Yagami family alone. L. Tell me, Izuku, why don't you want to join the investigation? Izuku. Well, I don't think I'd be much help in catching Kira. L. Why do you say that? Your skills are impressive and you used to be someone who could be a hero. Tell me, do you want Kira to keep killing criminals? Don't you want to bring him to justice? Izuku. You're right about that, while clenching his fists. But I know this will sound bad, but I think Kira did a great job, but that doesn't mean killing justifies his means. L. That's interesting. Someone working on the investigation said the same thing. But there's something I don't understand, and that's what he really plans to do. Izuku. Maybe create a better world. L. And then what will happen? Let's suppose Kira manages to create that world he wants so much, but then what? Will he kill innocent people just out of boredom? But well, maybe when we catch him, he'll answer all our questions. So the dark-haired man got into the car and rolled down the window. L. Listen, if you change your mind, you can call this number, handing him a card. You'd really help us if you decided to join the investigation. Izuku. I'll think about it. Having said that, the dark-haired man rolled up a window and the car started, leaving the green-haired man alone. Ryuk. Wow, this just got more interesting. Laughs. Izuku. TSK, seriously, how I hate that guy. You know something, Ryuk. Getting the Shinigami's attention, I've never felt cursed since I found the Death Note. In fact, it hadn't even crossed my mind. I'm happier than ever with this power. I'll create a perfect world. Ryuk. Frankly, I don't care if you feel cursed or happy to have the notebook. Those sentimental things are human. But it's usual for people who have come into contact with a Shinigami to face only misfortune. Izuku. Interesting, but that wouldn't happen in my case. Ryuk. Hahaha, I hope you're right. So, on his way home, he texted Melissa to ask if she was free tomorrow to go out again. The reply came quickly. Izuku just put his phone away and kept walking until he stopped at a store where he bought a few things and some apples. Izuku. You know, Ryuk, there are other things you could try, it doesn't just have to be apples. He offered him a candy. Ryuk. I don't like human world food. The only thing I find tolerable is apples. Izuku. As you wish. He ate the candy. Meanwhile, elsewhere a group could be seen talking. They were the League of Villains discussing what was happening. They were trying to discover who Kira was, as they wanted to recruit him, and if he refused, they would kill him. Night had fallen, and it had begun to rain, with several lightning strikes. Elsewhere, a man could be seen talking to his employees. Boss. What is this garbage? Is this what you call a proposal? Listen, you probably think that just mentioning Kira's name is enough to increase the audience. Well, you're wrong. Our show has a bigger audience because we cover more stories than others. The public wants blood, and what I want is a good story, not this garbage. Go find a story. Angrily. Employee. The police aren't talking, sir. Lately, they haven't revealed a single detail. Boss. I don't pay you to complain. If the police aren't talking, then get creative. Just then there was a knock at the door. It was his secretary telling him they had left an envelope for him. Boss. What is it? Opening the envelope and taking out 4 tapes along with a note, taking it and starting to read it. Hahaha, this is what I like, it's what I call a story, almost too good to be true, a message from Kira to the world. If you don't broadcast these tapes, I will kill the members of the board of directors one by one. How can we not broadcast them? If that's true, then with this our audience will reach the heavens. Good heavens, I'm so excited I'm going to have a heart attack. Back with the freckled boy, he was in his room thinking about what he would do. Izuku. If I don't interfere, L will meet his end in about 4 days. I'm convinced I have God on my side, well, actually a god of death, a Shinigami. The lightning bolt struck, illuminating the freckled boy's room. Chapter 13. The next day, the freckled boy was ready to meet Melissa. He was a little nervous because he didn't know where to start, but he sighed to calm himself. Everything had to go smoothly without any problems. Izuku. Alright Ryuk, how do I look? Showing him his appearance. Ryuk. I don't really care how you look. While devouring an apple. Izuku. Come on Ryuk, I need your opinion on this. I know you've already told me you're not going to help me or L, I just want your opinion on how I look. Everything has to go well on this D-date. while looking away so he wouldn't see his blush. Izuku. Besides, don't forget that I'm the one who buys your apples. Ryuk. Are you blackmailing me? Izuku. No, I'm just saying that I'm the one who buys the apples without asking you for money or anything in return. I think that would be fair, or else I think you'll have to give me your own money if you want to eat apples again. While taking the last apple. The Shinigami didn't know what to say. A mere human was blackmailing him, threatening to never buy apples again if he didn't give him advice on how he looked dressed. The Shinigami saw the freckled boy pouting, so Ryuk could only finish eating his apple. Ryuk. You look good, I'm sure she'll like it. Izuku. Thanks Ryuk, throwing the apple. Just then, the freckled boy's cell phone rang, indicating that Melissa was already on her way to their meeting place. Izuku quickly left the room, and Ryuk could only sigh, quickly finishing his apple and following after him. Minutes later, the freckled boy arrived at the meeting place with his friend, and the two went to have fun. The freckled boy seemed nervous, something the Deity noticed, but she didn't say anything since she found it endearing. Ryuk was bored because, in his opinion, nothing interesting was happening. When their date finally ended, Izuku decided to walk Melissa to UA, which she gladly accepted. Upon arriving, Melissa said goodbye to the freckled boy, giving him a kiss on the cheek, which made him blush. As the freckled boy started to leave, he ran into his former childhood friend, Katsuki. Katsuki. Hey, you damn Deku, what are you doing here? Only those of us who will become future heroes study here. Giving him an arrogant smile. Izuku. I know, Kachin. I just accompanied Melissa to get here, and don't worry about me, I was already leaving. He walked past, but the ash-haired boy stopped him, causing the green-haired boy to sigh and clench his fists. Izuku. And now what, Katsuki? He said it in a subdued tone. This surprised the ash-haired man since he had never called him by his name, but he didn't pay much attention to it and just made an angry face. Katsuki. Listen up, you damn nerd, I'll be the next symbol of peace now that you're out of my way, and I hope it stays that way. Get it through your thick skull, you damn Deku, someone like you was never meant to be a hero. Having said that, he left the freckled boy alone, who only gave a small smile, and began to walk away. The more he walked, the wider his smile became until it turned into a laugh, which confused the Shinigami. Ryuk. Everything's alright. Seeing that the freckled boy wouldn't stop laughing. Izuku. Of course it is, Ryuk, everything's wonderful. Besides, Katsuki's right, my destiny was never to become a hero, my destiny is more than that, my destiny was to become a god. Ryuk. Whatever you say. That was the Shinigami's simple answer. When the freckled boy arrived home, he decided to watch a little television. There was nothing exciting on. They were just saying that the crime rate was still going down. This cheered the green-haired boy up a bit since little by little, criminals were starting to fear for their lives. He turned off the television and started making dinner, but then he received a call from Light telling him to turn on the television and watch the news. The freckled boy did as he was told and found that the news was reporting that they had received tapes from Kira and that he was holding them hostage. The green-haired boy watched to see what was happening. He didn't understand what was going on. Then the news reported that an agent had been killed at the main entrance of the building. This surprised the green-haired boy a lot since he didn't know the name of the man who had fallen to the ground at the entrance. He turned to look at Ryuk and found that he wasn't saying anything, but he noticed his smile growing wider. But then they saw as an ambulance entered the building, thus cutting off the transmission. Light. Izuku, what do you think about what just happened? Izuku. I think this will be interesting. It seems someone else found a death note, and not only that, but something tells me they have Shinigami eyes. Light. Do you think they're a threat? Izuku. No, or well, I'm not entirely sure about that yet. For now, we'll focus on what happens from now on and finding whoever has the notebook. If we find them and they have the eyes, it'll be very easy for us to kill L. Light. I understand. The call ended and the green-haired boy went up to his room and looked at the moon. Then the memory of Katsuki came to mind and he clenched his fists. Ryuk. Why don't you write his name in the notebook? Izuku. If I did, it would be suspicious that after he spoke to me, Katsuki Bakugo died, but that doesn't mean he'll be punished. Besides, who does he think he is to think he'll be the next symbol of peace? He's always been a bad person who thought he'd never get what's coming to him, but what he doesn't know is that Kira will punish all the bad things he's done. Chapter 14. Days passed, and Light told Izuku that his father said L wanted him to work on the case. Izuku said that was excellent, but Light added that they wanted him too. Izuku didn't mind, since refusing would be mysterious to see how he changed his mind. When L first told him he wanted him on the case, he had enthusiastically agreed, and refusing now would only raise suspicions. He could also find out who the second Kira was. The two were summoned to a hotel where they met the dark-haired man again. He told them he had to show them a video, playing a recording from one of the tapes the second Kira had sent to the television station. They both knew this was evidence, so they both said they believed there was a second Kira. L asked them why they believed that, and each gave their reasons. The agents were impressed, as it was almost exactly what L had said before. L decided they were the right people for the job, and then told them that his top priority was in capturing the second Kira. L. We'll send a message to the second Kira, we'll impersonate the real Kira. Izuku, I want you to impersonate Kira. This surprised the green-haired boy and the brown-haired boy. Izuku? Me? But why? In a surprised tone, while inwardly cursing L. L. Well, I think you'd be the right person for it, but if you have any problems, it doesn't matter. Izuku. It's okay, besides, I didn't say I rejected it, I was just surprised, that's all. L. I understand, then I'll give you time to think about what you're going to say. Izuku. Okay. After a few minutes, the freckled boy had written down what he planned to say on a piece of paper. L, upon reading it, told him it was fine, except for the part where he introduced himself in public. Izuku told him he had gotten carried away with the character and that he had to make it believable. So they posted the video, and it wasn't long before the second Kira responded to the message. But what shocked Izuku and Light was that the second Kira mentioned the notebooks and the Shinigami. Luckily, none of them understood what he meant by that. Izuku quickly said it was like some kind of code that only Kira would understand, and everyone quickly believed him. After a few hours, everyone left. Izuku and Light were walking along, wondering what they would do next. Light. What do you think about the second Kira? Looking at the freckled boy. Izuku. I think he's an idiot. How could he even mention the Death Note and the Shinigami? We'll have to find him before he makes a mistake. If that happens, it'll only be a matter of time before the police catch him and make him talk. Light. You're right, but how will we do that? Izuku. We'll go to the city where the second Kira invited us. Light. And then what? Izuku. I don't know. We'll just have to wait. With that, the two went their separate ways. Izuku spoke with Ryuk about it, to which the Shinigami gave short answers. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a Shinigami could be seen talking to a girl. She asked him if there was a way to kill a Shinigami, to which he replied that the only way to kill a Shinigami was by making him fall in love. The next day, the green-haired boy got ready to go where the second Kira was supposedly hiding. Izuku wondered how the second Kira would find him. Izuku and Light passed by a crowd in front of a cafe where someone was watching. They saw the crowd passing by, smiling. I found you, your name is Izuku Midoriya, you're the only one whose age I can't see, you're Kira. I can't believe it was so easy to find you. Alright Rem, time to go. Getting up and leaving. After the girl left the cafeteria, she headed home to find out more about the freckled boy. She was surprised to learn that he had previously studied at UA and was a prospective hero. She only had to investigate a little more to find out where he lived, so she decided to record a video for him. Meanwhile, Izuku was helping with the investigation when Watari called to tell them that the second Kira had sent a message. Everyone saw the message, which said that he had found Kira. This surprised everyone, especially the green-haired boy, since he didn't remember seeing anyone suspicious. L said that they hadn't met yet because he had only discovered who Kira was, but that it wouldn't be long before they met. At that moment, L decided to post a message for the second Kira. Izuku decided to return home accompanied by Light. When they arrived, Izuku asked the brown-haired boy if he wanted to come in, which he accepted. Light greeted the freckled boy's mother, who was preparing dinner. Izuku told her that they would go to his room they were going to study, but they were actually going to talk about what had happened a few moments ago. Izuku. Hey Ryuk, you didn't see another Shinigami when we went there, right? Ryuk. No, I didn't see another one. And if that Shinigami was there, I didn't see him. Light. But how do we know that he actually knows who Kira was? He practically saw Ryuk, but he didn't see who he was attached to. Izuku. No, that's impossible. He couldn't have seen Ryuk. Light. What do you mean? Izuku. Only people who come into contact with my Death Note can't see him. It would be practically impossible for him to have seen Ryuk. Am I right? Looking at the Shinigami, who just nodded. Just then, his mother knocked on the door, saying someone wanted to see him. When he went downstairs, he saw a red-haired girl standing in the doorway. She introduced herself as Miss Amain, and Izuku quickly let her touch his notebook, telling her to follow him to his room. Inko. Who is she? In a serious tone. Izuku. She's a friend. Inko. Staring at him intently, if you say so. The freckled boy went up to his room blushing, but upon entering he became serious. Light didn't know what was happening. Izuku. So you're the second Kira. This surprised a brown-haired boy who saw the girl and just let out a laugh. Chapter 15. Light. Are you sure she's the second Kira? looking at the freckled boy. That's right, Light Yagami. While looking at the brunette's age. Izuku. Putting that aside, how did you find me? In a serious tone. Oh, that was too easy. When I saw your name, I just had to look it up online, and that was it. Izuku Midoriya, a young aspiring hero studying at UA. Izuku. TSK. The freckled boy was annoyed because he didn't think it would be too obvious to discover who he was or about his past. Izuku. And what is it you want? Because I imagine you have something planned with me. Actually, no. This made Izuku's eye twitch slightly. How could he just show up out of nowhere like that without even having an emergency plan? I just came to tell you that you have my full support in whatever you need. I imagine you still don't know L's name, so I can help you. I don't mind you using me. After all, I can be your eyes. Izuku. But the tapes you sent to the station have your fingerprints on them. Besides, a camera probably saw you somewhere. It'll only be a matter of days before they catch you. A little annoyed. Hey, I'm not stupid, you know. Besides, that's what I looked like when I discovered you. Showing him a picture of herself in disguise, and as for the fingerprints, those aren't mine. They belong to a friend who lives in another region. She's the one who sent the tapes to the station. Izuku. Even so, you were very careless. If you want me to kill her, fine, just tell me. Angrily. The freckled boy sighed and analyzed the situation for a moment. He knew he needed her help if he wanted to kill L, but he had to verify how determined she was to help him. Izuku. Okay, but how do you plan to get close to L? We practically can't get any information about the investigation. Light. He's right. It would be difficult for you to get close to him. Besides, if you see his name, it would be very suspicious if he died after you saw it. Izuku. Damn it, we're between a rock and a hard place. Angrily. What do you think about me pretending to be your girlfriend? I think that way he wouldn't suspect someone close to you, right? This question greatly surprised the freckled boy and the brown-haired boy, but then Izuku coughed and spoke. Izuku. I'm sorry, but no. Besides, I'm interested in someone else. He said, turning his face away to avoid showing his blush. But Light is available, isn't he, buddy? Light. Looking seriously at the green-haired boy. Izuku. Sure, why not? Light was simply analyzing the situation. They couldn't afford to lose the girl since she had the eyes, but even though she had told them she didn't mind being used, if they made a mistake they could lose her and gain a new enemy, not to mention that she already knew their names and faces. Light. Okay. It's not what I expected, but it's alright. At least he's a cute guy. Looking at Light, who didn't know whether to feel offended or flattered. So, what am I going to do now? Izuku. For now, try to keep a low profile. Eliminate minor criminals, but make sure they leave a message for L. It's incoherent, but it'll keep him busy. Light. But you should know that I'll have to go out with other girls to keep a low profile. Absolutely not. Angrily, if I see you with another girl, I won't hesitate to kill her. The freckled boy could only think that this girl was just like Toga, but he decided to intervene since he was the one who had gotten him into this trouble. Izuku. Listen, Missa, he has to go unnoticed since L would be very suspicious of Light being so attached to you. It'll only be for a while, and then he'll stop. Praying she accepts the proposal. Missa. Okay. Looking away, by the way, can I see your Shinigami? Izuku. Sure. He approached his desk and took out a sheet of the death note, giving it to Missa, who saw Ryuk. Missa. Well, this is your Shinigami. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ryuk. Ryuk. Likewise. Missa. By the way, Izuku, do you know how to kill a Shinigami? Izuku. Kill a Shinigami? I didn't know that was possible. Interested in this, just like Light. Missa. What you have to do to kill a Shinigami is make them fall in love with you, thus extending your lifespan. Izuku. That's interesting, but I don't think they would do that, would they, Ryuk? Ryuk. That's right. You'll have to find someone else who is willing to die for you and thus prolong your lifespan. Missa. Well, then that would be all, right? Izuku. I think so. By the way, can you give us your number so we can stay in touch? Missa. Of course. Thus they exchanged information. Before leaving, Mrs. Shinigami spoke to the freckled boy. Ram. Hey human, I'll give you a warning. I can see how many years Missa has left to live. If I see her die before her time is up, I'll know it was you and I'll take care of killing you myself. The same goes for you. Looking at the brown-haired boy. Izuku. No, don't worry, I don't plan on killing her. While backing away a little. Just then, there was a knock at the freckled boy's door. It was his mother, who told him that dinner was ready. Izuku invited them to eat and they readily accepted. Before sitting down, Izuku left a bowl of apples for Ryuk in his room. As the hours passed, Light and Misa had to leave. The freckled boy wondered what he would do from now on, since he didn't trust the girl much. She seemed careless, and that carelessness alone could lead to her capture. The next day, Izuku and Light went to their classes. The green-haired boy thought about the message Misa would send to the station. When classes ended, they went to see L, who showed them the recording tape. L said that Kira and the second Kira had already met. L said that Light and Izuku were still suspects. After that brief meeting, L told Namasa to send someone to keep an eye on Light and Izuku, since he still hadn't ruled out the idea that Izuku was Kira and Light was his accomplice. Chapter 16. Izuku was in his room thinking about the words L had said to him. Flashback. Izuku. Do you really think Light and I are still Kira? L. I haven't ruled out that possibility yet, but I hope I'm wrong. Light. What do you mean by that? Somewhat confused. L. You guys are the first friends I've ever had. This answer surprised everyone in the room, even more so the freckled boy. Izuku. Smiling, I'm glad you consider me your friend. You should come back to the academy. It would be fun to have someone else to talk to about more advanced things. Light. Midori is right. We could even play tennis again. L. Thanks, I'll keep that in mind. Then flashback. Ryuk was observing the different types of expressions that the green-haired man made while lost in his thoughts. The Shinigami decided to speak, since the silence was making him uncomfortable. Ryuk. You won't be using the death note today. Izuku. Sighing, I don't feel like it. Besides, Light can handle it. Getting up from his chair and lying down on his bed. Izuku. Hey Ryuk, can I ask you a question? Ryuk. Go ahead. Izuku. Have you ever felt bad about killing someone? Ryuk. Normally, we Shinigami don't care whose life we take as long as it prolongs our own. Why do you ask? Don't tell me you've stopped planning to kill L. Izuku. It's not that. It's just that when L told me I was his first friend, I remembered Kitsuki. You know, he was never that explosive. He was my first friend. I know I said I'd kill him, but I remembered the good times we had as kids. But that's all in the past. Getting out of bed. Ryuk. Humans are easily swayed by their feelings. I'm surprised you're so determined to create the world you want. Izuku. Well, Ryuk, you're right about that. We are easily swayed by our emotions, but if you truly want to achieve a dream, nothing will stop you until you see it fulfilled. Tell me, Ryuk, would you like to go for a walk? Ryuk. I'm not your pet. Angrily. Izuku. You're right, you give a pet a home, you feed it, and you take it for walks. He glanced discreetly at Ryuk, who looked annoyed. Alright, let's go. Ryuk. Seriously. There are times when I wish I could kill you. Izuku. Okay, sorry, I'm just playing. So the two of them went to the mall. The freckled boy wanted to see if a walk would help him forget his problems. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case because someone hugged him from behind. Turning around, he saw it was a girl with long red hair. Izuku. Can I help you with something? Kira. Don't you remember me? Getting close to his ear. Izuku. Misa. Surprised. Misa. That's right. Smiling. Izuku. Misa, what do you think you're doing? Misa. Nothing, just saying hi to my friend. Izuku. I didn't mean that. Misa. Oh, no. Izuku. No, I mean, have you already forgotten what I told you? We shouldn't be seen together. As he watched people staring at them, which made him nervous. Misa said, oh, please, what's wrong with us seeing each other? Besides, we're friends, remember? Izuku sighed. So, what brings you here? Misa replied, well, I came to buy clothes for my date with Light, since the ones I have are too old or simply don't fit anymore. Also, I heard they were serving a seasonal drink, and I was wondering how good it tasted. So, Izuku, what are you doing here? Izuku answered, I just came to take my mind off things for a bit. Misa said, I see. By the way, is Light with you? Izuku replied, no, I think he's at home. Misa said, that's a shame. I wanted him to come with me to pick out the clothes I'm going to buy. Izuku said, well, I have to go. Misa asked, huh? Why? Izuku replied, seriously, you don't understand, do you? If someone from the investigation sees me with you and tells L, he'll definitely investigate you, and that would endanger the death note. Misa added, in case you haven't noticed, I came in disguise, pointing to what was already obvious. Izuku. I'm sorry, it's just that I'm not 100% today, somewhat embarrassed. Misa. Then why don't we take a walk? Izuku. Letting out a sigh, okay. So the two went for a walk where Izuku simply followed the girl and pretended to pay attention to her. They also went to try some drinks, which, to the green-haired boy's taste, weren't too bad. They talked about things they would have to do tomorrow, although Izuku discreetly gave her instructions. The time came when the girl had to leave because she had a photo shoot, so she said goodbye to the green-haired boy. But what Izuku didn't know was that the entire day he spent with Misi, he had been followed by two individuals. One was an agent who worked with L, and the other was a redeed who had seen them when they went to buy the drinks. She didn't know why, but she felt a small pang in her chest and a strong anger toward that girl who was so attached to the freckled boy. When Izuku got home, he took a bath and then went to sleep. The next morning, the green-haired boy went to the academy. On the way, he ran into Light, so they both walked there. Classes went by normally, and they used their free time to write down the names of some criminals. When they left, the two were talking about what they would do, but a voice interrupted them. Turning around, they saw it was L, which surprised them both. Izuku. What are you doing here? L. Well, you guys said I could come, and while it would be fun to be back in the classroom, I don't have much time for that. Besides, you're the only ones who know I'm L, and if I die, Agent Namasa and your father, Light, have strict orders to arrest you. Izuku. Well, I think we already made that clear we're not Kira. He said in an offended tone, while inside he was cursing the black-haired boy. L. Hey guys, what do you say we go have some fun? Izuku. Of course. He smiled. What do you say, Light? Light. Sounds good to me. Besides, we don't have any homework to do. So the three of them went off to have fun, while Izuku and Light discreetly glanced at each other, implying that they were both annoyed by the situation they were in. Chapter 17. The boys were walking while L told them what he thought about the second Kira. Izuku, like Light, sometimes gave his opinion so as not to arouse suspicion in the dark-haired boy. Everything seemed normal until Izuku and Light heard a voice and turned around to see Melissa and Misa. Izuku Light. Shit, they thought to themselves. The girls approached them, while L, for his part, was analyzing the situation. L. Excuse me, do you know them? In a questioning tone. Izuku. Yes, Ryuzaki, these are Melissa Shield and Misa Amain. Introducing the girls, but glared angrily at Misa, who hid behind Light. L. Nice to meet you. If you don't mind, tell me what they are to you. Izuku. Well, Misa is Light's girlfriend. Light. Unfortunately for me. But he received a punch from the girl. Izuku. And Melissa as well, my friend. Saying that, Melissa felt a small pain in her chest, thinking that Izuku only saw her as his friend. L. Wow, I never thought Light had a girlfriend. Izuku. By the way, what are you guys doing here? In a questioning tone. Melissa. Well, I saw Light, so I came to ask if we could spend the day together. Melissa. Well, I just came to say hi. While looking away to avoid them seeing her blush. L. Oh, okay, then I'll leave so you don't feel uncomfortable with my presence. The dark-haired boy was about to leave, but Izuku stopped him. Izuku. Hey Ryuzaki, wait, why don't we all go together? The more people with us, the better. L. I don't know, they'll feel uncomfortable if I'm with you. Light. Don't say that, besides, you'd be good to have more friends. L. Sighing. The five of them went to have fun. Izuku managed to get Light and Melissa to move L away for a bit so he could talk to Misa. Misa. Hey Izuku, don't tell me that guy is L. Izuku. Lower your voice. And if that person is L. Misa. I see. So I already know his name. Do you want me to kill him? Izuku. No. Angrily, if L dies now, Light and I will be imprisoned, not to mention that now Melissa and you will be suspects. Misa. So what do you plan to do? Tilts her head to one side. Izuku. It's time to put my plan into action. Misa. And does that have anything to do with Melissa? Izuku. That's right. For now, we'll keep a low profile. By the way, can you tell me L's name? Misa. Sure. L's name is. But at that moment the three of them had returned with trays of food. L. Wow, that line was long. As he sat down as usual. Misa. Hey Ryuzaki, why do you sit like that? L. Well, it's a habit of mine, one I've had for as long as I can remember. You could say it's normal for me to sit like this. So the five of them ate what they had bought. Misa told L she was going to give him a makeover. L was about to refuse, but before he could, the girl pulled him along. The dark-haired man turned to look at Light, who just smiled as he watched L being dragged along by the girl. Light. I'd better go help him. He goes ahead, leaving Izuku and Melissa alone. There was a brief, somewhat awkward silence between them, but Izuku started a conversation that broke the tension. They talked normally, watching as L refused to enter a beauty salon. Izuku. Melissa, there's something I need to tell you. Melissa. Sure. Blushing. Izuku. Sighing, Melissa, But they were interrupted by Light, and Izuku could only make an annoyed face as he went over to the brown-haired man. Melissa. Izuku, wait, what were you going to tell me? Curious tone. Izuku. It wasn't anything important, we'd better go where they are. Melissa. If you say so. Sad tone and somewhat annoyed by Light's interruption. She saw a piece of paper fall from the freckled boy's pocket. She bent down to see what it was, but only saw that it was blank. When she looked up, she was shocked to see a strange creature flying beside the green-haired boy. She rubbed her eyes, thinking she was hallucinating, but she could still see the creature. It turned to look at her, and she could only look away. After a few hours, everyone said their goodbyes, but Melissa couldn't help but feel uneasy as she watched the creature wander around them, seemingly talking to someone. Without the green-haired boy noticing, she slipped the paper back into his pocket. As she headed towards UA, she kept thinking about what she had seen. Meanwhile, Izuku was talking to Ryuk about what had happened that day. Izuku. Wait, you're saying Melissa can't see you? Ryuk. I don't know, but it seemed like she could see me. I felt her gaze on me. It was really creepy. Izuku. It must have just been because you walked past me. She must have seen me, and that's why I think you think she was actually looking at you. Look, here's the sheet of paper. Showing it to him. Ryuk. Maybe you're right about that. Anyway, I still can't stop thinking about how she was looking at me with those piercing eyes. Izuku. Stop exaggerating, Ryuk. Now I have to think of a way I can kill L. Ryuk. But Light's girlfriend saw his real name. Why don't you ask her? Izuku. Because if I send her a message asking for L's real name and they catch me and see my phone, they'll know I'm Kira. Then he turned on the television and put on the news. It showed that UA had been attacked again by the League of Villains and that several students were seriously injured. A list of the students in the hospital appeared and an idea came to the freckled boy. So he grabbed his notebook and started writing. Izuku. I hope this is enough to put L under more pressure. Chapter 18. The next day, the news reported that 2 students from Class 1A and 1 student from Class 1B had committed suicide and written "Knows who we are" on the walls. L had seen the news and simply turned off the television, analyzing what he had seen. Hours later, everyone could be seen gathered together as L had called them together to discuss what had happened. L. I think you already know why I asked you to come urgently. Izuku. It's because of the news this morning, right? Receiving a nod from the black-haired boy. Namasa. But what does he mean by "knows who we are"? This caught everyone's attention. L. I don't know yet. While eating a piece of cake, the message can be interpreted in many ways, so I couldn't give you a definitive answer. What do you think? Looking at Izuku and Light. Izuku. I don't know. Maybe Kira found out what they were doing and that's why he killed them. Light. Maybe they were involved in something illegal and Kira found out. L. That's interesting. Both answers could be correct, but I still think that wasn't the reason Kira killed them. Tell me, Izuku, you were with the students Denki Kaminari and Minoru Mineta, right? Izuku. That's right. We were in the same class when I was still studying at UA. L. What can you tell me about them? Izuku. Well, I only know that they were perverts and who have received some complaints from some girls. L. Well, that might give us a clue as to why Kira killed them, but what about Nido Monoma from Class B? Izuku. I didn't know him very well, I only know that he could copy other people's quirks for a short period of time and that he thought he was superior to everyone else. L. Letting out a sigh, thus beginning to let himself be carried away by his thoughts. 3 students dead, 2 of them perverts and the other a show-off. There is no relationship that connects them except looking at the freckled boy. Izuku. Is something wrong? In a curious tone. L. No, I will speak with the principal of UA so that he gives me the files of the deceased students. Please Detective Namasa, I ask you to get information on the 3 students, maybe there is something I'm not seeing. Namasa. Yes, sigh. L. The rest of us will work on discovering the identity of the second Kira. So the day passed with everyone investigating. Izuku could feel L's gaze on him, while Ryuk could only enjoy the scene. Then Izuku received a call from Melissa. Izuku told L he had to leave, which the dark-haired man readily agreed to. L instructed someone working with him to follow the green-haired boy. Izuku arrived at the meeting point with Melissa. She smiled upon seeing him, but her smile vanished when she saw the same creature. Izuku. Hi Melissa, what was the rush to talk to me? Melissa. Well Izuku, but before she could say what she wanted, the green-haired boy interrupted her. Izuku. Wait, not here. How about we go over there? Pointing to a Ferris wheel. Melissa. Sure. So the two went to the attraction, while Izuku discreetly glanced in one direction, watching the person who was following him. They both entered and took their seats. Izuku. Now please tell me what you wanted to say. Melissa. Well, what I wanted to tell you is that since yesterday, when I look at you, I also see someone else. Izuku? Someone else? Confused. Melissa? That's right. It's a strange creature that's always with you. Maybe you think I'm crazy, but I see it right now. Pointing to where Ryuk was. Ryuk? I told you it was looking at me. Looking at the freckled boy. Melissa? Did that speak? Surprised. Ryuk? Hey, who are you calling that? In case you didn't know, I'm a Shinigami. Melissa? A Shinigami? Shocked, but wait a minute, you already knew that. Looking at the freckled boy, who had been wearing a serious expression. Izuku? Sighing, that's right, and like Ryuk said, he's a Shinigami from the Shinigami world. Melissa? But it's scientifically impossible for a god of death to exist. Ryuk? Believe me, I'm as real as you. Izuku? Melissa, since when have you been able to see Ryuk? Melissa? Since yesterday. I saw a piece of paper fall out of your pocket, so I picked it up, but when I did, I saw, looking at Ryuk, I saw him next to you. Izuku? I see. While cursing himself for being so careless, he needed a better way to hide the Death Note pages without them getting lost or falling out of his pocket. Melissa? So what's a god of death doing with you? In a serious tone, she wanted to hear answers. Izuku? You could say he's a spectator, watching a show. Melissa? What do you mean he's a spectator watching a show? Not understanding what the freckled boy told her. Izuku? What I mean is that I'm the real Kira and he's here to have fun watching the things I do, watching how the show unfolds. After saying that, there was a brief moment of silence in which neither of them spoke while the girl tried to process everything she had heard. It was too much for her to think that the boy she had fallen in love with was the most wanted assassin and that Shinigami existed. It was all very confusing for her. The attraction had ended, so they both got off the. Izuku? Melissa, but he didn't finish, since the girl spoke first. Melissa? I need time. Thus withdrawing, leaving only the freckled boy and the Shinigami. Ryuk? Well, it didn't go as planned. What will you do now? He chuckled. Izuku? I don't know, but I have to be ready to eliminate her if she tries anything against me. He said sadly. Having said that, he started walking, while the agent thought that the green-haired boy had confessed his feelings to the girl and she had rejected him, thus ending his mission and returning to headquarters. Chapter 19. After the green-haired boy confessed to Melissa that he was Kira, he wondered what he should do next. So many things were on his mind that he couldn't concentrate. First, there was how he would kill L. Second, he had to keep an eye on Missa so she wouldn't make any mistakes. And finally, there was Melissa, who knew the truth. All he could do was let out a tired sigh. Meanwhile, Melissa was in her room. She decided to pretend to be sick to avoid going to class since she wasn't fully focused. Her mind was racing with what had happened. She never imagined that the sweet innocent boy she met on island was the most wanted criminal in the world. There was also the fact that she now knew Shinigami existed. So she grabbed a pillow and pressed it to her face, letting out a cry of despair. There was a knock at her door. She didn't feel like talking to anyone, but she heard her uncle's voice. She got out of bed and opened the door, then went back to lie down. Ed, the symbol of peace, knew that something was wrong with her niece, so she decided to ask. Melissa, everything is fine, but she didn't get a response. Listen, if something is bothering you, you can tell me. There was a brief silence until the blonde spoke. Melissa. Uncle might, because love is so confusing. This answer shocked the symbol of peace. He never imagined his niece would ask him about love. He had thousands of women who would die to go on a date with him, but he knew nothing about it since he had never been in a relationship for fear that the villains would come after her. Well, Melissa, getting her niece's attention, love is. He was left wondering what else to say since he had no idea. The girl could only think that her uncle knew nothing about the subject. Almight, seeing that his niece had already realized his lack of experience in this matter, could only let out a sigh. Listen, Melissa, the only thing that matters is if that boy is very special to you, give him a chance. Melissa. Although, if he does things that are wrong. In a surprised tone. Seeing her uncle's reaction, Melissa quickly began to shake her hands. Melissa. So I was just kidding. Calming down, I'm glad to hear that, but take my advice, if that guy makes you happy, give him a chance. Just then she received a call, excuse me, but I have to go. As he left Melissa deep in thought and returned to the freckled boy who was talking to Missa. Izuku. Listen, in 3 days I want you to deliver a message to the world. Missa. Okay, and what do you want me to say? Izuku. I want you to say that you and Kira will begin sharing your power with those willing to follow me. This will make Elle think that Kira and the second Kira started giving their power to people. 2 days after this announcement, we will kill criminals all over the world. When that happens, L will be cornered. Lisa. I understand. You want to make him believe that more people have the power to kill. Izuku. That's right. I also want to ask you something else. Lisa. And what is it you want to ask me? Izuku. I know this will sound risky, but I want you to kill the entire League of Villains. Lisa. You mean that league that attacked you, eh? Receiving a nod from the freckled boy. Izuku. That's right, but before they die, I want you to write a series of instructions that I want them to follow. Can you do that? Lisa. Of course, that will be too much. Easy. Izuku. Well, that's all. Standing up from his seat, by the way, Rem, looking at the Shinigami, you told me you'd die to protect Misa, right? Rem. That's right. Why do you say that? Izuku. It's just that since she's involved in this, if L catches her, they'll make her say how he manages to kill people, and they'll also ask if they know who Kira is. Rem. What do I mean? Izuku. I may not have the eyes of a Shinigami, but I can tell you that since Misa is working with me, she'll die sooner or later. The Shinigami said nothing, she just looked at Misa and saw how many years she still had left to live, then she turned to look at the freckled boy. Rem. If I see L trying to kill Misa, I'll write his name down, but only if he tries to do something to her. Izuku. Okay, well, goodbye. Paying both of their bills and leaving. The freckled boy had been thinking of a way to get rid of that Shinigami, and perhaps he had found a plan to do it. When he got home, he took a bath. Then he heard someone ring his doorbell, so he went downstairs to answer the door, but when he did, he found Melissa, who asked him if she could come in. Izuku said yes, and the two went to his room where there was a short awkward silence. Melissa. Izuku, I want you to answer something for me. Izuku. Sure. Melissa. I want to know why you're doing this, and I want the truth. She crossed her arms. Izuku. Sighing, tell me, Melissa, aren't you tired of the inequality? Melissa. What do you mean by that? Izuku. Tell me, when you were little, didn't you want to be a hero, saving everyone with a smile? But the moment you discovered you had a quirk, that dream would never come true. He clenched his fists. And you could only watch as others fulfilled your dream, and others who were lucky enough to have a quirk used it for evil. Quirkless people like us will always be rejected, Melissa. Humanity is slowly rotting away, and no one knows it until it's too late. There are wars for power and territory, sometimes for such absurd things, but human beings will always want some excuse to hurt or discriminate against someone. Tell me, Melissa, aren't you tired of it? The blonde said nothing and only remembered how at her school they laughed at her for not having a quirk or only used her for being the niece of the symbol of peace. Izuku. All I want is to end all of this. I want a world where there is peace, and although it sounds absurd and very unlikely, I know I can do it. People need someone to believe in and follow. Tell me, Melissa, do you want to help me create that world? He extends his hand. Melissa. Looking into the freckled boy's eyes, I accept. Chapter 20. As he said that, the freckled boy smiled, then he approached the girl and whispered in her ear. Izuku. I promise we'll create a better world for ourselves. As he said this, Melissa felt her cheeks turn red. Izuku. Melissa, I know this is very soon, but I want to ask you something very important. Melissa. And what would that be? Izuku. I need you to steal as many files as you can from the UA principal's computer. Melissa. What? Surprised. Izuku. I know it's risky, but I need those files. Those files are a key piece to take the next step that will bring us closer to the world I so desire. Would you do that for me? He moved a little closer to the girl's face, which only made her blush more intense. Melissa. Okay. While looking away. The girl stayed a while longer until she had to return to UA. Ryuk saw the freckled boy and noticed he wasn't doing anything, not even moving. He couldn't see his expression because his head was down, his hair covering his face. The Shinigami tried to talk to the freckled boy, but only saw the green-haired boy start laughing maniacally, which surprised him. The laughter lasted for a few hours until the room fell silent again. Izuku. Fantastic. Now that Melissa is on my side, I can confront and kill L every day I get closer to achieving my goal. It seems, Ryuk, that the real fun is about to begin. The Shinigami could only smile until he started laughing. Meanwhile, Melissa had arrived at UA and went to her room. Upon arriving, she lay down on her bed, still blushing. She remembered the freckled boy's words about creating a new world for them. So she got out of bed and went to her desk where she had some tools. She began to build a device. The next day, Melissa woke up to the first rays of sunlight. Having stayed up late finishing her device, she picked it up and smiled at her completed creation. Now she had to think of a way to infiltrate the principal's computer. Luckily, her uncle had told her there were no classes today because they were having a teachers' meeting. Melissa left her room and went to the principal's office. When she arrived, she tried to open the door, but it was locked. So she took a device from her pocket that allowed her to open it. She quickly went to the computer and, upon turning it on, saw that it needed a password. She pondered something that she tried using the rodent's birthday, but it didn't work. She spent a few minutes thinking about what the password could be, and out of stress, she opened the keyboard and saw the password written underneath it. She just stared in disbelief as she typed the password, finally unlocking the screen. She quickly started copying all the files, then took out the device and turned it on. She quickly connected it to the computer and started downloading a program. The files were almost finished being copied, and the program was almost done when she heard someone trying to break in, which made the blonde panic. She could see that everything was almost finished. "Melissa. Come on, load it," in a scared and nervous tone, then I hear them put the keys in the doorknob. When the person entered, she didn't see anything unusual. They just left some papers on the principal's desk. The person who had entered was the heroine 18 Midnight. She noticed some books lying around and picked them up. She glanced around the room and then left. Melissa had managed to hide under the desk, covering her mouth with her hands, so no one would hear her. When she saw the person had left, she breathed a sigh of relief. Emerging from her hiding place, she quickly left the principal's office and headed to her room. Upon arriving, she grabbed her cell phone and called the freckled boy. He answered almost immediately. Melissa explained that she already had the files. Izuku told her to come to his house so he could give her the files she had obtained that day. The call ended. Melissa tidied herself up a bit and went to the green-haired boy, who could only smile as he looked at his watch. After a few minutes, the doorbell rang. She went downstairs to answer it and saw the girl. Izuku let her in, and they both went in the freckled boy's room. Izuku connected the memory stick to his computer and began opening the files. The two looked at each file one by one and were surprised by what they contained. There were some files with the names of heroes who had committed crimes, but it seemed the principal had hidden or tried to erase them. There were also others with reports of bribes the principal had accepted. Izuku. Wow, I never expected this. Melissa. I can't believe even the principal would have done something like this. Izuku. Now you believe me when I told you the world is rotting, but that's about to end. Now we just have to find a way to keep track of any updates the principal receives. Thinking. Melissa. I already took care of that. Izuku. Really? Surprised. Melissa. That's right. Yesterday I created a device and a program that allows us to keep track of anything the principal receives. Izuku. That's impressive. You're amazing, Melissa. Melissa. Thanks. Blushing. Izuku. Now my victory will be more than assured with the three of you. Melissa. The three of us? Confused. Izuku. Sorry, I forgot to tell you, but Light and Misa are also supporting me. Melissa. And what about the second Kira? Do you know who it is? Izuku. The second Kira is Misa. Melissa. Really? Surprised. Izuku. That's right. It would be better if I explained more about the Death Note and the Shinigami. So the freckled boy began to explain how the notebook worked and about the instructions inside, and also about the Shinigami eyes, leaving the blonde even more surprised. Chapter 21. Melissa. And what will you do now? Izuku. I'll start eliminating all the fake heroes who have escaped justice, either because of their fame or because they pay large sums of money to the courts to let them go free. Just then, Melissa received a call from her uncle asking where she was. She told him she'd gone out to clear her head but would be back soon. As the call ended, she apologized to Izuku for the interruption, but he said it was no problem. The freckled boy offered to walk her back, but she declined and left. Ryuk, who had been silent the whole time, decided to speak. Ryuk. And now what? Izuku. Now the fun begins. So he took the notebook and began writing down some of the names in the files, while in the streets heroes were falling like flies, just as at UA, where the heroes present in the meeting were collapsing onto the table, alarming everyone. That day, all the news outlets reported what had happened. L tried to stop the news from broadcasting the information, but it was in vain, as they published it anyway. That day, the world learned of Kira's true power. Meanwhile, L's gaze was somber as he watched the news, eventually turning off his screen. The dark-haired man could only clench his fists as his hands trembled. His faithful assistant, seeing this, approached him. Batari. Okay. L. In all my years as an investigator, I've never encountered anything like this. Everyone I've caught ends up regretting or feeling guilty for what they've done, but Kira, he's a monster. Batari said nothing more, he just watched as the dark-haired boy stared into space. The next day, the freckled boy woke up with a smile, looking at Ryuk. Izuku. You know, at first I felt uncomfortable knowing you were watching me while I slept, but now I don't care so much. Ryuk. Do you want to tell me why you get up so early on a weekend just to go for a run? Izuku. It's become a habit for me, going for a run. Besides, I think it's a good way to start the day. Ryuk. You're more energetic than ever today. Izuku. And how could I not be, when I'm so close to achieving my goal? The Shinigami just sighed and followed the freckled boy. The freckled boy, as usual, was exercising, but on the way, he was surprised to run into the bi-colored boy. The two had a short chat, during which the green-haired boy noticed a serious expression on the bi-colored boy's face. He asked if everything was alright, to which Shoto replied that it wasn't, as he had had an argument with his father. After their brief conversation, the bi-colored boy left. Izuku returned home and took a bath. Upon exiting, he received a call from an unknown number. When he answered, he saw that it was L calling him to come over. Izuku sighed and left his house. When he arrived, he saw that everyone had a serious expression. L. I'll be direct with you, we lost. When he said this, everyone was shocked. Light. What did you say? Still in disbelief. L. I said we lost, Kira won. Namasa. How can you be so sure? We can still do something. Izuku. He's right, we can't give up. L. Remember the message those kids wrote? Everyone nodded, I know what they meant. Light. And what is it? L. Kira managed to get information on all the heroes, including their real names and locations. He proved that to us yesterday by eliminating 80% of the heroes in Japan. Namasa. Just like that. You're going to give up? L. Admit it. We thought we knew how Kira killed, but we were wrong. We don't know how many people have Kira's power. As you leave your badges. I want to thank you for taking risks and being so committed to this investigation. As he left the room, no one said anything, and Izuku was inside laughing his head off. As he left the building, Light called after him, and Izuku turned around. Izuku? Is something wrong, Light? Light? What are we going to do now? I imagine you have a plan. Izuku? That's right. Starting to walk, followed by the brown-haired boy. Listen, Light, we have to eliminate everyone involved in this investigation. Light? No problem. Izuku? That includes your father, Light. In a serious tone. The chestnut-haired man stopped walking, causing Izuku to stop as well. There was a brief moment of silence, but then Izuku saw Light continue walking. Light. I understand. Izuku. Light, listen, if you want, offering to kill his father, but was interrupted by the brown-haired boy. Light. No, I'll do it. After all, he's my father. Izuku. Are you sure? Light. Yes, I know my father is a threat and that his desire to catch Kira is great and that makes him a problem if we want to create a new world. That's why he must die, but it's a price I'm willing to pay. He said it so calmly. Izuku. If you say so. The two continued walking in silence for the rest of the way until they separated. When Izuku arrived home, he went to his room and as soon as he closed the door, he couldn't contain himself any longer and started laughing. Izuku. Okay, now I just have to find a way to kill L, and my dream will come true. So Izuku sent a message to Misa, asking her to make a video for L. It didn't take long for her to reply. Izuku went to his desk and wrote the name of the number 2 hero. When he finished writing, he stretched a little. Ryuk. Why did you write your friend? Izuku's father's name? Izuku. See it as an act of kindness. Besides, he's released some criminals just because they're his informants in the underworld. The green-haired boy was close to achieving his goal, but he had to be careful, as there could be an unexpected turn of events that would complicate everything and ruin his ambition. Chapter 22. In the following days, Light, Misa, Melissa, and Izuku began writing various names in the notebook. It was a worldwide purge, so much so that news reports covered new deaths every 5 minutes. The police and heroes were in shock, as even they weren't safe. Izuku and Melissa had started a relationship during this time, but what they didn't know was that someone had opened their own Kira case. This person had begun investigating deeply, even staying up all night, but had already established a pattern in Kira's methods. Izuku also eliminated Katsuki Bakugo in the slowest and most painful way possible. The entire League of Villains had also been eradicated, as Misa had written down the names of some members and instructed them to attack their comrades. The 4 of them were in a cafe discussing what would happen next, since they still had to kill L and everyone else involved in the investigation. They had to be cautious, because if they killed someone, L would discover it was them, and if they killed everyone at once, L's butler would come after them. So they started to devise a plan in which all the deaths would look like an accident, all while a silhouette watched them. They all said goodbye and went their separate ways. When Izuku got home, he lay down on his bed. Izuku. Hey Ryuk. Ryuk. What? Izuku. What do you think about my ambition to have a new world being about to come true? Ryuk. Sighing, I don't really care, I just want to tell you that all this has started to bore me, besides, I'll be leaving soon. Izuku? What? What do you mean you'll be leaving soon? Surprised and confused. Raik. Like I told you before, I'll be here until you die or until the pages of the Death Note run out, whichever comes first, and it seems you don't have that many pages left. While taking the freckled boy's Death Note and seeing that he only had 5 pages left to write on. Izuku? And you can't give me another Death Note? Raik. Hahaha, what a good joke. As he started to laugh at what the freckled boy had said, the boy just glared at him angrily. Izuku? Hey, this isn't a joke. Raik. I'm sorry, Izuku, but even if you gave me all the apples in the world, I would never give you a second Death Note. You'd have to wait for another one to fall, which is very unlikely. Izuku? No, it can't be. Don't you understand? If I manage to fulfill my dream and in the future I need to use the Death Note again and I don't have it anymore, the world will go back to how it was before. Trying to convince the Shinigami. Raik. It's a shame, but I won't give you a second Death Note. In a serious tone. Izuku? TSK, damn it. Raik. Besides, I don't know why you want a second Death Note if you already have one. Izuku? Huh? What do you mean I already have a second Death Note? Raik. The girl who's with Light. You could ask her to give it to you. Izuku? But do you think she'd just give it to me like that? Not to mention that now that she's started a romance with Light, it's more likely she'll give it to him. Raik. Unless you kill her and keep it. Izuku's Death Note. Very well, genius, but what about Rem? If I do anything against Misa, she'll kill me. Besides, why are you giving me this advice? I thought you weren't on anyone's side and that you wouldn't have an opinion on anything I do. Curious tone. Raik. That's because I'm very bored. Besides, it will be interesting to see what happens. Meanwhile, Light and Misa were talking about Izuku. Misa? And tell me, once all this is over, what will you do? I mean, will you continue helping Midoriya? I mean, he's a good person with a great motive, but you know he's just using us for his own benefit. Looking at the brown-haired boy. Light. Sighing, when all this is over, I'll continue with my studies and get a good career. As for Midoriya, I'll continue helping him. After all, he's my friend. Besides, from the first moment he asked me to help him, I knew he was just going to use me. To be honest, I would have done the same. He said it in a calm tone. Misa? Wow, I thought you were going to say, oh please, Misa, kill Izuku for me. The chestnut-haired man said nothing and just kept walking. Meanwhile, elsewhere Elle can be seen talking to someone. Elle? How did you find me? Curious tone. I found this, showing her a card. Don't worry, I came to help with Kira's case. Elle. Well, let me tell you, you're too late. Kira's case is over. There's nothing we can do. She sighed, he won. I have something that might interest you. Handing her an envelope. The dark-haired man took the envelope and opened it, taking out several sheets of paper. He began to read them, and with each word he read, he was surprised. Then he saw the person in front of him. Elle. Are you sure? Yes, it took me some time, but I think I've figured it out. Elle. That means I wasn't wrong, and my deduction was correct, Watari. Looking at his personal assistant. Watari, yes sir. Elle. Call the others and tell them the Kira investigation is reopened. Watari. As you say. Elle. But tell them not to say anything to Light or Izuku. Receiving a nod. Elle. This time we'll finish everything with one last match that will decide the winner. If Kira wins, he'll probably die, but if we're the first to launch the first attack, that will give us the advantage and a chance to win. That way, we can imprison Kira. He was thinking this. Elle. I'd like to propose that you join the investigation and bring justice for your father. I accept. After all, that's the only reason I wanted to meet with you. Elle. It will be a pleasure to have you on this investigation, Shoto Todoroki. Chapter 23. The next day, Izuku received a call from Shoto suggesting they go out, using the excuse that they hadn't been hanging out much lately. Izuku didn't see a problem with it, so he agreed. They arranged to meet at the train station in an hour. After agreeing on a time, Izuku left his house. The freckled boy could see the big changes he'd made. Although he could see that people were afraid of being judged by Kira, some were already starting to adapt, as Izuku could see children with quirks playing with those without. After a few minutes, he arrived at the station where the bi-colored boy was already waiting. Izuku approached him. Izuku? Hi Todoroki, sorry if I took a while. Todoroki? It's okay, Midoriya, I haven't been waiting long. Izuku? By the way, I'm sorry about your father. He lowered his head. Todoroki? It's okay, you weren't to blame for anything. After all, the old man was just judged by Kira. He stared intently at the green-haired boy. Izuku? Hey Todoroki, is something wrong? Noticing the bi-colored boy's gaze. Todoroki. Shaking his head, how about we go? Receiving a nod. The two walked together, Izuku unaware that Todoroki was watching him as if he were analyzing him. Todoroki. By the way, Izuku, getting his attention, how are you after Bakugo's death? Izuku. Ah, Kaken, well, in a sad tone. Todoroki. I'm sorry, I didn't. Izuku. It's okay, I'm fine, giving a small smile. There was a brief silence until the green-haired boy spoke. Izuku. You know, they remind me of myself, Kaken, back when we still got along. Watching the children play, I know Kira is a criminal, but the things he's done are slowly starting to change the world, no matter how small. Like those kids playing, not caring that the others don't have a quirk, even if they're having fun. Todoroki. But what about the people Kira killed? Izuku. That's wrong, of course. All life should be respected, but if it threatens others, then the balance will be lost, and everything around it will be affected. The only way to stop it is to cut the evil off at the root. Todoroki. So you're saying that the deaths so far are a good thing? Izuku. Everything comes back to you in this life, Todoroki. Everything is for the greater good, just like I did when I sacrificed my quirk for Mirio and Eri. After saying that, there was another short moment of silence. Neither of them said anything after that. They said their goodbyes, but not before the bi-colored boy had hidden a microphone in the freckled boy's clothes. Izuku arrived home and sighed, well the bi-colored boy had reached L, and all that remained was to be patient. Back with the freckled boy, he was talking to Ryuk while Shoto and L overheard. Izuku. Hey Ryuk. Upon hearing that, the two who were listening were simply confused and wanted to know who they were talking to, but all they heard was statue. Izuku. I think there were still some apples left in the kitchen. Shoto. Apples. Confused tone. L. Thinking, maybe he's just talking to a friend. No, that's not possible. Besides, why is there static? This is too suspicious. Wait a moment. Having said that, he stood up and went to a place where he had written some things down. L. Here it is, looking at the letter that Kira sent weeks ago, did you know that the god of death likes apples? Opening his eyes. Shoto. Everything's alright, approaching the black-haired boy. L. Now I have no doubt, Izuku Midoriya is Kira. Meanwhile, the freckled boy was sitting on his desk holding the microphone that Todoroki had placed on him. Izuku. I'm going to take a bath. So I took the microphone to the bathroom and turned on the shower, then I left that room, returning to my own. Ryuk. What will you do now? But he received no answer, only saw the green-haired boy take his cell phone and start typing something, hey, don't ignore me. Izuku. Finishing typing and putting his cell phone aside, that's more than obvious. It's time to kill L. Ryuk. And what about the boy with the different colored hair? Izuku. You mean Shoto? Receiving a nod, I'll take care of him personally. In a serious tone. The next day, the entire Kira investigation team was reunited, with the exception of Light and Izuku. L was telling them what had happened the previous day. Naomasa was shocked and somewhat disappointed, while the others wanted to catch him as soon as possible. However, L stopped them, telling them they didn't have enough evidence and that if they went and captured him, it would be pointless since he would be brought to trial, and they couldn't simply say he was Kira based on words and assumptions. But he told them not to give up because now that they knew who Kira was, it was only a matter of time before they caught him and made him confess who the other Kiras were. Meanwhile, Izuku had asked Misa, Light and Melissa to meet with him as soon as possible, so the three of them went to the freckled boy's house. Light. Izuku, what's wrong? Izuku. We have a problem. Melissa. A problem. Confused. Izuku. L knows I'm Kira. This surprised everyone. Light. What? What are you talking about? L closed the case. Izuku. I guess we didn't count on the possibility of someone discovering me. Melissa. Who? Izuku. Sighing, Todoroki Shoto, son of the number 2 hero. He told them what had happened yesterday, showing them the microphone that had been hidden under his pillow so they wouldn't hear anything. Then they all started plotting to kill L once and for all. This would be the final game, where the winner would be decided and only the smartest and most cunning would emerge victorious. Chapter 24. The following days were very difficult for Izuku and L, as neither would stop until one of them lost. Izuku had told Light and Misa to find out the name of L's right-hand man and eliminate him once they had it. With that, they simply nodded and went to take care of it. This would not only eliminate L and Watari, but if everything went as planned, Rem would also die in case things got out of control and she had to protect Misa. The freckled boy was in his room staring at the death note, so lost in thought that he got up from his seat, grabbed a hoodie, and prepared to leave. Ryuk. Where are we going? Izuku. Light and Misa are doing their job, it's time for me to do mine. The Shinigami didn't understand what the freckled boy meant. The two walked to the building where the Kira investigation agents were located and Izuku hid and waited patiently. Ryuk. Why are we here? Isn't it supposed to be that if L sees you, he'll imprison you? Izuku. Don't worry about that, Ryuk. And as for why we're here, you'll see. Well, setting a stopwatch, and now, setting the stopwatch. They watched as the members of the investigation left. Izuku could only see the bi-colored boy also leaving, his fists clenched. But then he looked back at his targets and began to follow him from the shadows. The Shinigami simply observed with great curiosity what the freckled boy was planning, but then he saw Izuku smile, paying attention to what was happening. He saw a car lose control and crash into the detectives. Luckily for the freckled boy, there was another car with them, so he escaped 3 of them. People approached to help anyone who was injured, but they had all died. The police and paramedics arrived, asking people to leave. Izuku disappeared into the crowd. Izuku. Looking at his watch just in time. Ryuk. Interesting, but how did you manage it? Izuku. Well, Ryuk, the guy driving the car was an abusive husband. I did some research on him, and every day at the same time, he leaves work early to go to his mistresses. During my investigation, I noticed that after leaving work, they went to the same bar. I just had to calculate the time, and then I just had to write in the death note that the driver lost control of his vehicle, crashing into 2 people crossing the street, killing them and the driver. As for the third one, well, I didn't expect him to appear. I think it was just luck, but I'm glad I got rid of 3. Meanwhile, L had received the news that the 3 agents had died a few hours after they left the building. L. It seems Kira has already made the first move, while clenching his fists. The dark-haired boy could only observe the badges Watari had recovered from the detectives who had lost their lives. The next day, Light contacted Izuku. The green-haired boy thought Misa had discovered Watari's name, but he only received the news that they hadn't found anything. Izuku told them they would take care of it later. Izuku told Light that the time had come to kill his father. Light said nothing and hung up. The brown-haired boy just sighed, turned off his lamp, and went to sleep. The next day, Light woke up and sighed. As expected, his father had gone to see L. He stayed in his room with the excuse that he would study a little, but he just stared at his cell phone at photos from some family trips. Then he pulled out a piece of paper from the death note. Light. I'm sorry, Dad, but I can't allow you to interfere in our affairs anymore. While Light's father was walking home, he collapsed halfway there, his chest aching. He tried to tighten his belt to alert L, unaware that Light had taken his father's belt in the middle of the night and tampered with it. The detective's vision blurred until he breathed his last. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Detective Namasa lay on the ground in a pool of blood, his chest riddled with bullet holes. The news of their deaths only fueled L's rage, so it was time to change tactics. The next day, Izuku and Light received letters summoning them to a specific location. Upon arriving, neither knew what was happening, so they entered the building and found Misa and Melissa bound and blindfolded. L watched while Watari pointed a gun at the girls. Izuku. What does all this mean? L. Izuku Midoriya, or would you prefer I call you Kira? Light. L. They have nothing to do with this. L. Oh no, Miss Amain and Melissa Shield are accused of conspiring and helping Kira in his killing spree, just like you, Light Yagami. Pointing at him. L. I only have one question. Why? Why kill innocent people? Izuku. Innocent? Are you serious? We both know those people were anything but innocent. L. And what about Namasa, your father, Light? Weren't they innocent? Izuku. How low have you fallen, L? L. You were the first to fall low. I'm just playing along. The freckled boy just glared at the dark-haired boy with anger, but then he started laughing like crazy. L. That's so fun, you lost. Izuku. No, this isn't over yet. While looking at Rem, game over. L. Chapter 25. L. That's so fun, you lost. Izuku. No, this isn't over yet. While looking at Rem, game over. L. The dark-haired man didn't understand what he meant, but he saw Watari fall to the floor, so he quickly approached him. L. Watari, in a worried tone. Watari. It was an honor to serve you until the end, slowly closing his eyes. L was in shock and let his anger completely consume him, so he pointed his gun at Izuku. But he felt a sharp burning in his heart, causing him to collapse to the ground. Before dying, he fired all the bullets he had at the green-haired boy, who barely managed to dodge, taking only 2 shots in the shoulder and leg. L died. Light quickly went to untie the girls, who were terrified, but Melissa went to help the freckled boy. He felt no pain due to the adrenaline, but when it began to subside, he finally felt the sharp pain of the gunshots. Misa approached her death note, next to which lay a small mound of dust that vanished in the wind. That was all that remained of the Shinigami. After what happened, everyone went to treat the green-haired boy's wounds, but what they didn't know was that L knew he would die, so he had recorded everything. When he died, everything that had happened would be sent to Todoroki so that he could be the one to end it all. At UA, in the bi-colored boy's room he had received a file, and when he did, he clenched his fists and lowered his head. The bi-colored boy knew the black-haired boy had died, but he wouldn't let his death be in vain, so he quickly began downloading what L had sent him. Returning to the freckled boy, he was in a hospital being treated while his friends waited for him and celebrated that they had been rid of a problem. Now they could finally finish building a better world. Izuku was being bandaged. The doctor told him to try not to exert himself too much if he didn't want the wounds to reopen, then left, and Melissa entered. She carefully hugged the green-haired boy, who returned the hug. Melissa. Finally, it's all over. Izuku. I wish. Melissa. What do you mean by that? Confused tone. Izuku. This won't end until Todoroki dies. I know this is difficult, but he's the only one left, and only then will we end this. Melissa, I promise you that when all this is over, I'll stay away from it all. Melissa said nothing and just smiled, nodding her head. As they left the hospital, everyone went home to rest and forget what had happened that day, but Melissa had a bad feeling. When Izuku got home, he went to his room, which was dark, so he turned on the light. I see you've arrived. Turning the chair around. Izuku. To Todoroki, what are you doing here? In a scared and surprised tone. Todoroki. I came to pay you a visit. By the way, what happened to you? Looking at the bandages he had. Izuku. Oh, this is nothing, it's just that someone tried to jump me. Todoroki. I hope you're okay. Standing up, but it's kind of strange. Izuku. What's strange? Well, backing away. Todoroki. How could someone hurt you before you killed them? Weren't you supposed to only need a name and a face to do it? Or is there something else you're still hiding, Kira? Giving the freckled boy an emotionless look. Izuku. But what are you saying, Todoroki? Todoroki. Stop lying about that. There was a brief silence. Rai could only watch with enthusiasm and curiosity what would happen next. Izuku. And what will happen now? Do you plan to imprison me? Todoroki. No. This surprised the freckled boy. You've killed many people, and that includes my father. Izuku. You hated him. I only did you a favor. Todoroki. Although I hated him and wanted to kill him many times, deep down I still loved him. While activating his quirks. Izuku. What are you going to do? Kill me? Todoroki. That's right. But before I die, tell me how you caused all those deaths. While approaching the freckled boy. Izuku tried to maintain eye contact, but his gaze involuntarily drifted to his desk. Shoto noticed this and approached. Upon opening the drawers, he found nothing. Izuku simply smiled inwardly. Shoto replaced the drawers but noticed a small hole in one. He realized something was hidden there. Knowing the freckled boy and knowing he was clever, Shoto used his ice quirk to create a small tool to lift the lid. Upon doing so, he found the death note. Brike. Hahaha, this is going to get good. Izuku. Hey, you can't do that. But a burst of flame passed just inches from his face. Todoroki. Why so much interest in a simple notebook? Upon touching her, the bi-colored one saw Ryuk, becoming shocked, but then let out a sigh. Todoroki. So, a god of death. Ryuk. You don't seem surprised. Todoroki. I am, but it was something I saw coming. This must be your notebook, right? Receiving a nod, so that's how you managed to kill so many people. Looking through the names until he saw his father's name, closing the notebook. Izuku, sorry Todoroki. Throwing a book at him. The freckled boy took advantage of this to snatch the notebook and run away, pursued by the bi-colored boy. Their chase led them to a forest where the freckled boy was looking for something to write his friend's name with, but he had to stop because there was a cliff in front of him, and Shoto caught up with him. Todoroki. I considered you my friend, Midoriya. Izuku. What, are you going to burn me or freeze me to death? Todoroki. No, I don't intend to use my quirks to kill you. He pulled a gun from his shirt and pointed it at him. I think there's only one way out. Izuku. You can't do this to me. I'm a god. I'm the god of the new world. But he was shot in the leg. The freckled boy used his blood to write the bi-colored boy's name, but Shoto shot him in the hand, making him drop the notebook. Todoroki. I'm sorry it has to end like this, Midoriya. The gunshot was heard in the forest. Immediately. The two-tone boy stood motionless, his finger on the trigger. He touched his abdomen, noticing the bleeding. He turned around and saw Reed. It was Melissa Shield holding a gun that was smoking, implying she was the one who had fired it. She had arrived just in time to save the freckled boy. Melissa. Izuku. Running towards him. Izuku. Melissa, but how? Melissa. I had a bad feeling, and when I got to UA, I checked the security cameras and saw Todoroki leaving with a gun. Todoroki. Melissa, why? While trying to stop the bleeding, but it was useless, although with his fire, I managed to stop the bleeding, he had already lost too much blood. Melissa. That's because I love him. I don't care about being a killer if it means being with the person I'm in love with. Todoroki. Damn it, but that doesn't matter. Now everyone will know who Kira is. I sent some videotapes to the TV stations. It'll only be a matter of time before you go to jail. Melissa. You mean these tapes? Showing him an envelope, I was lucky to get there before the guy delivered them. The bi-colored boy slowly began to close his eyes as his vision blurred, and the only thing he saw before dying was Melissa and Izuku leaving. Time skip. 1 week. A week had passed since everything that had happened. Izuku and Light had graduated with honors and were now detectives. Melissa was a renowned inventor, while Misa continued to make a star. Izuku and Melissa decided to get engaged, and as promised, Izuku stopped using the Death Note, though there were times when he still used it. Ryuk decided to return to the Shinigami world since his fun was over, but he could still observe what the freckled boy was doing. Izuku left the role of God to Light, who gladly accepted, and the world changed for the better. No one was afraid or insecure anymore. People wondered what had happened to Kira since his activity had decreased. Some said he died, others said he walked among us. Meanwhile, criminals no longer did anything since they knew Kira would never be found. He was simply watching them, patiently waiting to return. End. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.